I mean, we're not talking over this for a second, obviously, right? What is this? Okay, I was about to say, is this like karaoke version? Am I not going to get some MJ going here?
It's a long version. It takes it a minute.
Oh, yeah, just making sure.
Yeah.
I didn't get like the intro, the creepy laugh. I was like, if you need me to sing it, I'm down. I'm game.
I mean, in the longer version, that happens in the middle. It doesn't. I know.
I thought there's an intro to it, wasn't there?
No, you're talking about Vincent Price. That happens like at an interlude near the middle or end of the song. Yeah.
Well, let's just all enjoy it.
He never got paid for that and was very upset about it too.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Happy Halloween, my friends. We have got a scary good show for you today. Thanks. Worked on that one all morning. We do have a show lined up for you today because it is the, of course, hashtag Friday Football Fiesta. A lot of the football to talk about. Before we get there, so I have to tell you about a bit of a conundrum I stumbled into last night because as I was going through the ideas for Halloween costumes, which I ended up where I am, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. But before we talk a little bit, and if you want to come hang out on the Halloween party, the live stream is up right now at facebook.com/thefanupstate. The Fan Upstate on YouTube, the Fan Upstate on Twitch, the Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. That's it. Fan Upstate on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. I'll get there eventually. So last night, actually, not even last night, yesterday, I spent the entire gosh darn day driving from Halloween store to Halloween store for a reason. If you come to the live stream, you will notice that the great one has broken out down to the purple gloves, has broken out an OG WrestleMania 1 Undertaker today. Got the makeup, got the tie, got the big hat, full out all the way. Bravo, well done. So very early this week, either Sunday or Monday, I don't remember, it doesn't matter. Knowing what Lonzo's costume was for today, Rob Brown decided, you know what? Who needs to save for retirement or whatever? So Rob Brown went, and Rob Brown ordered a full-size, custom, top to bottom, down to and including the boots, Kane outfit. Like OG Kane, like Big Red Machine Kane. Like mask and everything, Kane outfit.
By God, that must be Kane.
I was ready to roll. And then yesterday, at about 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning, I got an email that said, your order has been delayed. It will arrive Saturday afternoon around 1 p.m. And I said, that's obviously not good enough for me. So I spent about 6 to 7 hours yesterday driving to every place in the city, in the greater metropolitan area, going, do you have and can you get a full-size Kane costume? And there were two reactions. Reaction one was people going, no, but dude, that would actually be really cool. Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I'm here asking you for it, individual. Or number two, Kane? Like a candy cane? Or do you need a cane for a vampire outfit? What do you mean here? And me having to show pictures of a 6'9" tall gigantic man in a red and black fire suit with a gimp mask on, effectively.
I just realized we actually interviewed him. I forgot.
We did.
I forgot about that.
We did.
Yeah.
Kane is on the Rob Brown Show Armada stable for sure. So I spent hours looking for it because I wanted to hit the surprise on Lonzo of a full Brothers of Destruction here on the show.
Dude, that would have been great.
I know. I agree. I was in. I am not going to tell you how much money that I spent on that Kane costume. It was a lot. It was enough that I'm not going to tell this story again later when the wife wakes up because she might have gotten mad at that. So instead, since O broke out the OG WrestleMania 1 Undertaker, I decided, well, let's 88 in the DeLorean ahead a couple of years and broke out the I'm American Badass all dressed in black, the American Badass version of the Undertaker, which will include throughout the day hitting the fist, the raised fist. It's gotta happen. So we're hanging out on the live stream. It's a Rob Brown Show Halloween party on the show today. It is also a hashtag Friday Football Fiesta. Can I tell you how nice it is that Halloween's on a Friday? That's nice. That's a nice thing for us. Okay. A lot we got to get to. A lot we got to talk about. We've got an entire weekend of football to break down. We've got World Series Game 6 tonight, if necessary. World Series Game number 7 is tomorrow evening. Both of those games in Toronto, Canada. So we'll get into some picks, predictions, prognostications, and projections about that later on in the show. Cade Klubnik officially listed as probable for Clemson's game tomorrow. Tomorrow, I love you tomorrow. You're only a day away game against the Dukies, the Duke Blue Devils. What impact does that make? I got to tell you. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth when we get into the X's and the O's, the Jimmys and the Joes later on in the radio show. I don't know how much of a huge difference it makes, man. I don't know how big of a difference that it makes. I'd like it to make a big difference. I just don't know how much it's going to. Christopher Vezina last week, I think, was better than most of us expected him to be. Again, this was a cat who has gotten some spot play in weeks leading up to the game last week. Not last week, week before last, you know what I mean. But leading up to the SMU loss, this was a cat who took a lot of and I think justified criticism from Clemson fans. Like, is this the future? It does not look like it out of the gate. And again, I think the part of the reason I say that, because we did get some folks who said, well, wait a minute, Rob Brown, like it was his first game as a starter. True, it was. But if you are the heir to the quarterback throne at Clemson, I think we have to acknowledge that you were out there spinning the bean against the worst pass defense in the Atlantic Coast Conference. I think we have to acknowledge that you were out there spinning the bean against the, what was it, 4th or 5th worst offense in college football, my dudes. I think that is something that has to be taken into consideration. So I don't know how much stock I do or do not want to put into Chris Vezina, but he played well in that game. Then I look at Cade Klubnik coming back. Do I think that Cade Klubnik would have been better than Christopher Vezina? I certainly hope so. That would be why he is the starter. But the problem to me in that game, I don't necessarily know that the problem was Christopher Vezina in the offense. In this game particularly, against Darian Mensah specifically, if your defense is not good, if your front seven doesn't look like the group of NFL players that we were all told that they are, that's where you're going to get into problems. That's where you're going to get into trouble. And I think that is what we're going to hang on quite a bit today. So we got that coming up for you later in the show. We had a theory that we floated yesterday about the Gamecocks of South Carolina. I said yesterday, and I stick by it, I very much believe that South Carolina has enough positive matchups around the football field that they can win on the road against Ole Miss. I genuinely believe that there are enough spots around the football field that South Carolina either has a matchup advantage based on what we saw last week against Alabama. Couple of spots where they have a matchup advantage. I think there are a few spots where we have seen weaknesses out of Ole Miss. I referenced the one loss that they suffered against Georgia. Some other games where it took them a while to really get going. Again, they did beat the hell out of Oklahoma last week, who beat the hell out of South Carolina the week before that. But I think there are enough weaknesses that this is a team I look at and I go, it is an upset alert game. I want to be clear, it is absolutely an upset if South Carolina wins. That is not a question mark. That is a statement of fact. But I think that there's enough on your side that I could absolutely say this feels like a potential upset alert game for me. But the one thing that prevents me from doing so is the fact that I don't trust Mike Shula in this spot. I wish I did. I wish I could. I'd love to be able to, but I don't. And the reason we brought this up yesterday was the conversation that we had with Lulu Kesson. And I pointed out to her. I'll point it out again. Probably point it out again later when we talk about this game more extensively. For 3.5 quarters, South Carolina looked like they were running a new and different offense. And it wasn't dramatic. In fact, if you didn't really dive into and pay attention to the games leading up to that game, I think it would be somewhat relatively obvious, or maybe not obvious to many of you, what happened in that game. You had different blocking strategies. You had different approaches to moving the football. There was a lot of movement. There was a lot of trickeration. There was a lot going on in that game that I think if you weren't really diving into it, you may not have caught all of it. And then we got into the fourth quarter of that contest. And then we got into the part of that game where what happened mattered a lot. And what did we get out of that spot? But it felt to me like they regressed and went right back to the systems, the tactics, the strategeries that did not work in all of the games leading up to that game. And I think that there was something to be said about what happened there. So with that on the table, I would like to put South Carolina Ole Miss as an upset alert for the game. I think the matchups are there. I think that if we see the coaching that we saw in the first 3.5 quarters against Alabama, I think that there are some spots you can take advantage of. Ole Miss is not the team that has the talent like an Alabama does. They're not a team that is talent-wise. And again, I like this team. It's a good team. But they have effectively relied on Trinidad Chambliss to do for them what Lenora Sellers did last year at the end of the year for South Carolina. That is, be special. Put the cape on the outside, put the underoos on the outside, and go be Superman, man. What is the strength of South Carolina's defense? Pass rush. It's the front seven. It's the ability to prevent quarterbacks from getting outside of the pocket. It's the ability to speed up the game for quarterbacks. That is, to beat a guy like a Trinidad Chambliss, that's what you have to do. And I think that you've got the talent and the ability to pull it off, but you are going to have to do two things. Number one, you're going to have to be perfect, as we have mentioned. And number two, I do genuinely think you're going to have to play the first 3 quarters and a half of the Alabama style of South Carolina football, not fall back to everything else you did before and what you did in the final 3-4 minutes of the Alabama game. So we're going to get into the X's and O's of that later on. We also have a lot of news out of the Carolina Panthers camp. Yesterday, Bryce Young was listed as a full participant in practice, which is very interesting because the injury that Bryce Young was battling was initially listed by the Panthers as a high ankle sprain. A high ankle sprain is an injury that takes a while to get back from. We're talking 3 to 5 weeks at the fastest. It takes a while to get back from that type of injury. He was apparently a full participant, at practice yesterday. And while the Panthers have not issued a status update on his availability for the game this Sunday against the Green Bay Packers, all the indications are that he's a go. That Bryce Young is going to have missed 1 week. That's interesting. But there's also some bad news. The bad news is that Brady Christensen, his season is over. He is now officially on the injured reserve. They had to do some tests and whatnot. Turns out that the injury he sustained in the game last week against the Buffalo Bills is a ruptured Achilles. He is done for the year, shut down. So now, what was a hodgepodge offensive line where guys were having to be moved around a little bit, now it's going to have to be a little bit more permanent. Coming up at 8:40 this morning, Rashad Beard, the host of the Panther Nation podcast, is going to pull up. We'll talk to him. We'll get his thoughts on BY. We'll get his thoughts on Brady Christensen and where the Panther offensive line goes from here. Oh, by the way, a lot of rumors swirling right now that Chubba Hubbard is a trade target for at least one team that is willing to potentially pay some money to make it happen. By money, I mean draft picks, etc. Apparently, the Patriots are very interested and have made multiple calls to the front office of the Carolina Panthers, questioning the availability of Chubba Hubbard to join that team. So that's going to be something that we follow very, very closely because of a few things. Number one, Rico Dowdle's been good. We know that. Last 2 games, not as good as we wanted to, not as good as the first 2 games. At the same time, we also think, Zoe and I both do, dude did not get the rock enough the last 2 games. Yeah, I can't have Chubba Hubbard having 6, 7, 8 more carries than him in any given game the way he's been playing.
You eliminate controversy and you get something out of it, more than likely.
Yeah.
And I think Chubba Hubbard would do well with the Patriots.
I think he is the type of runner that would fit in very well there. I completely concur with that take. I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I think the other thing that is the most interesting about this is the question mark, do we trust Rico Dowdle to be able to be the full season back? Because this is a guy who, as much as we don't like it, as much as it kind of makes it difficult, this is a cat who has struggled with injuries throughout the course of his career. He's been banged up a lot, dating back to South Carolina. He has struggled with injuries throughout his entire career. And if that is the case, then the question mark becomes, do you feel like you can trust him enough that you would send Chubba Hubbard away? Would you send Chubba Hubbard away and put all of it on Rico Dowdle to carry this team? And then what happens if he does go down again? You are effectively gambling. Do we want to risk our ability to potentially go win the NFC South if Tampa Bay struggles without their top 2 wide receivers? They didn't last week against New Orleans, but New Orleans is bad. Do you sacrifice that? Do you risk that in order to pick up a bunch of capital for next year and a trade of Chubba Hubbard? Or do you say, no, we need both these guys just in case the division opens up? We'll talk about that later on in the radio program. We got to get some baseball in here, as we mentioned. We'll get some NASCAR in here. The championship's going to be handed out this weekend. Rashad Beard at 8:40. Moving the chains at 9 o'clock to set you up for the high school weekend. Denton Day at 9:20 to set you up with his thoughts on the national college football scene. All that and more coming up as we roll on through the 4 most electrifying hours of sports talk entertainment. This is the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Joe Kane, good morning, fellas. Welcome in, everybody else in the background. Dressing up as an Ardell carry. I got to tell you, Joe, I don't know if you're allowed to wear costumes. The only people who aggravate me more than guy who says Halloween is lame and people who dress up are lame. I used to get really mad at Jim Rome when he did that back in the day. Are the people who show up not in costume and they go, I'm dressed as a insert my job here. No, it's not. You didn't want to dress up, and that's okay. But like, you know, don't try to buzzkill us because of that. That's your choice. We'll be right back, dude. Stay right there for me. Come close. I also wanted to find like a black spandex. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great Lonzo, and you. 844-326-3663. That is the Spartanburger, the Hub City Spartanburgers text line. That is also the number to call in and be a part of the show this morning. Brad in Woodruff texted the show. Said, still ticked about Rattler being pulled with a surrounding cast. He would be elite. Yeah, I'm in the same boat, Brad. And I'll talk about this very briefly because I do know that while this is, well, outside of me, not a big New Orleans Saints area, I do know that you college folks, you like to pull for your guys when they get to the league. I get that. I like that. I understand it. I've also pointed out a lot of times that the more guys you send to the league who are successful, the better it makes your program look. And in an age where, you know, recruiting is as important as it's ever been, player acquisition, tier 1. To have guys that go to the league and are successful it's a big exclamation point to the next generation of players that believe and maybe are labeled as they come out of high school, future NFLers. I am not thrilled about the loss of Spencer Rattler's starting job either. That being said, unfortunately, the National Football League, it kind of works that way. I do not believe that Spencer Rattler was taken out of the QB1 role and replaced with Tyler Shuck because Spencer Rattler doesn't have the ability to be good in the NFL. I think it was done for two reasons. The first is you spent a second-round draft pick on Tyler Shough. You just want to know what you got, right? And this is an ideal spot to make the shift for the football team because Tyler Shough gets to make his start against not an easy part, but probably one of the easier parts of the schedule for this team. Granted, you're going and sending him, and I don't love sending him to his first start on the road at the LA Rams. But after that, it's the Panthers, Falcons, and Dolphins. Now, I don't know. The Panthers are a big question mark. We'll see what they are with Bryce Young back under center. It was last week a result of Andy Dalton, by the way, who announced yesterday, got a broken thumb, didn't tell the team about it. Now, I don't know how much that impacts the game.
This sounds like a trend that's starting to happen where a lot of people breaking things or injuring themselves and not telling.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like, I don't love it, but I understand it. Think about it from the perspective of Andy Dalton. What happened last year? You got the start. You went in there. You played well enough that the only thing that took you out of the QB1 role was a car wreck that you got injured with. So if you're Andy Dalton and you get named QB1 and you know you've got a broken freaking thumb, you're going to try to go out there and gut it out, because if you can go out there and go for, 310 yards and 3 passing touchdowns and you beat the Buffalo Bills, even if BY is like mostly ready next week, Dave Canales might say, yeah, well, I mean, this guy kind of aced it last week. We're going to ride him one more weekend, right? So I get it. It's not great. It's not ideal, but I get it. I can't tell you the number of days that I have worked sick, days I should not have come in or done the show, primarily because I know that the boss probably gets 50 demos a day from people who want to do this job. And there's going to be statistically at least a few of them who are better at this than I am. So I don't want to risk being out, somebody stepping in the reserve role and taking my damn job. I get it. So I don't know what Carolina is. We'll talk to Rashad Beard about that coming up in a little over 2 hours from now. I don't know what the vibe is there for the Carolina Panthers. I don't know if they're good. I don't know if they're bad. There's still a question mark to me. We have seen games that they look like they can beat anybody. We've seen games where they look like anybody can beat them. But for now, they are not the most impressive team on the Saints schedule. Then they've got Atlanta, who just lost to Miami. Then they've got Miami, who got blown up last night by the Ravens. We'll get to that coming up in a few minutes as well. So what you're doing with Tyler Shough here is you're saying, all right, we're going to take you out to LA. We're going to throw you into the fire for your first start. Then once you've got thrown into and come out of the fire of the LA Rams, then you've got at Carolina, back home against Atlanta, on the road at Miami. We are going to give you those 3 games. Let's see what you are as an NFL quarterback. Let's see what you are as a number 2 draft pick. Because our draft strategy by next year is going to be influenced by that. The question mark is going to be, does Tyler Shough come out there, command the offense? If this dude comes out and he just eclipses what Spencer Rattler did as QB1 for New Orleans, then you go, all right, maybe we do have our guy. Maybe we were right about the 26-year-old rookie. Maybe we were right. Maybe we gave him enough time. If he comes out there and he underperforms Spencer Rattler, then you find yourself in a spot where you go, all right, like, do we go back to Rat Daddy one more time? Or do we just say, our next QB isn't on the future? Because here's the reality. I think Spencer Rattler can be a good NFL quarterback. Do I think he can be a great NFL quarterback? I don't know about great. I think he can be good. I think he can be one of those guys that if you build a great team around him, he can be good enough to win the games you need to win. Do I think he's the guy that you say, all right, we just need to build a team to him because he's good enough to elevate everybody around him? No, I don't think he's that. I'm not saying he can't be long-term. But I don't know that Spencer Rattler has necessarily done anything with the football that you look at and you go, that is a definitive franchise guy. I'll put it this way. If the Saints end up with the first, second, maybe third overall draft pick next year, as much as I do not like scratch that. Let me rephrase that. As much as next year's quarterback draft class is not filled up with the names that we thought it was going to be filled up with, there are some names that are interesting as possibilities. There are some names that are interesting as possibilities. If Dante Moore comes out of Oregon, I think he's a possibility. At this point, does anybody doubt Fernando Mendoza? Like, the guy's playing maybe the best quarterback in college football right now if he decides to come out. Hell, the New Orleans Saints could have a roster full of Gamecocks next year. Lenore Sellers. I mean, I got to tell you, of course, I watch this team every weekend. I don't think it's going to come as any great surprise to any of you for me to say, I don't think the lack of numbers for Lenore Sellers is the fault of Lenore Sellers. I think you saw last week what the guy's capable of when you cater the offense to him. If I'm a GM, I'm going to have a real difficult time passing on a guy that's 6'3", 240, moves like him, is damn near impossible to tackle, and has got a cannon for an arm when he's on the run. Like, the guy, to me, quite literally has every element of the game that I'm looking for. And if the rest of the NFL is out on him because of Mike Shula's game plan, which I believe is the case, again, like, maybe I can trade down to 7, 8, 9, 10. I've seen a couple of draft predictions where Lenore Sellers is like a late first-round pick, early second-round pick. Man, if I can trade down to 9, 10 and get him, I'm good with that. I would give a run at Lenore Sellers as a franchise quarterback. A lot of what's being said about Lenore Sellers, very similar to what was said about Cam Newton. Like, we don't know if he can get through his progressions. We don't know if we really trust him to read and react to a defense. Man, the dude can take off and run like him. I don't need him to be perfect at that. We can work on that. So, the point here is, I get it. I'm with you, Brad. It bothers me a little bit that they are dropping Spencer Rattler when the offensive line has been A, injured, B, it's just not that good anyway. When Alvin Kamara is unfortunately a shadow of his former self. When, I'm going to say this, Chris Olave looks completely checked out right now. Like, he just looks checked out. Hey, if I'm open, I'm open. But if I'm not, like, I'm not going to bust it to get there. Like, he just looks checked out. In fact, the only thing it looks like you have right now is Rashid Shaheed, who is a speedster and a good wide receiver. But guess who is rumored to be on the trade block right now? Olave and Shaheed, your top 2 wide receivers. So the reality is the Saints, I think, even Mickey Loomis, who is refused to go rebuild for a couple of years now, I think you may be getting to the point where you go, it's just not an option. Like, we're going to suck. The question is, are we going to suck intentionally to rebuild, or are we just going to suck and think we can figure it out? And as much as I love Rat has not stepped up to, and it's not on him, it's not exclusively on him, but he has not jumped off the page as, that guy's a franchise. Like, that guy's the future of the franchise. I think he's going to be a great backup quarterback. I think there is a chance that if you built a great team around him, he could be good enough. But the Saints are nowhere near building a good team around him that he can just go be good enough, right? I think you could take a guy like Rattler. I think you could dump him into a team like Kansas City. It's got talent everywhere, and he could be good enough. I think you could take Spencer Rattler. I think you could dump him into, Dallas, and I think he'd be good enough. I think there's a lot of spots he'd be good enough. It's just not New Orleans, and that's not a him problem. That's a franchise problem. But if he's not good enough to be the guy that you go, you can carry a mediocre team to greatness, as opposed to a great team carrying a mediocre quarterback to greatness, if that can't be him, and I just don't think he's that guy, then I need to know what I have in Tyler Shuck. We're going to throw him out there, give him a couple of games, 4, 5, 6 games, and then we'll be able to say, all right, second-round pick well spent. All right, we're going to have a backup quarterback that we can trade for a 6th or 7th round pick to add to the rebuild canister. Or, hey, look, we're just going to have to draft somebody inside the top 5 this year. And it may end up with us rolling the dice on Lenore Sellers, Ty Simpson, Carson Beck, no fear John Mateer, Garrett Nussmeier. It may result in you drafting a guy that doesn't jump off the page. But neither Rattler has not jumped off the page, and we're about to find out if Tyler Shuck does. So we'll see. Brad, appreciate the text, buddy. 844-326-3663 is the number. If you've got thoughts, you run the show today. I mean, I got plenty to talk about. We got a whole weekend of football. We got the World Series. We got the NASCAR Cup Championship. We got plenty to get to, but you go first on a hashtag Friday Football Fiesta. 844-326-3663. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. This is the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, hang out. We'll be right back. Thank you, Cruz. The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. Join us on our live stream. Facebook.com/TheFanUpstate, The Fan Upstate on YouTube or Twitter, The Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. It is our Halloween extravaganza, which basically means that it's the same show as always, but with scary music, and we dressed up in costume. A couple of undertakers on the show today.
There might be some tricks. I don't know.
That's fair. It is you. That is very fair. So, the National Basketball Association was rocked. We are going to start talking football in the next hour, but this feels to me like a big enough story that it merits a segment. The NBA has been rocked by a betting scandal. We know that Jonte Porter, not terribly long ago, caught the boot permanently from the NBA. We also know that Terry Rozier has been arrested by the FBI for shaving, point shaving, stat shaving, whatever you want to call it. We also know that at least one Chauncey Billups, NBA personality, in this case the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, has been arrested for being involved with a mafia-run illegal poker game. And apparently, according to reports, has been involved with the mafia. And this is not one of those times where you go, oh, it's the mafia. Like the FBI straight up was like, not just the mafia, it's the five families, named them, et cetera, et cetera. So the NBA has got a betting scandal going on. And as much as players getting into trouble, players being arrested, et cetera, et cetera, I'm going to say et cetera a lot in this segment, apparently. As much as that has happened, and as much as that has been an issue for every professional sports league, I genuinely believe that a betting scandal is the biggest threat to the integrity of any league that they could possibly face. Any challenge, not to the integrity of the game from the perspective of fans are going, oh, I can't believe that they're letting this guy who got a DUI play, or I can't believe that this owner is, donating to this political dude I don't like, or whatever. Integrity from the standpoint of, even I, a sports gambler, want to be able to watch a game with the belief that at any given moment, all 10 guys on the floor are playing the game with a very genuine approach to it. And if there are multiple players getting busted up, and now it's 2 in the past 3 years, which is not a huge percentage, but it's more than you like. If I turn on an NBA game, and as Lonzo pointed out, with Chauncey Billups, with Terry Rozier, with Jonte Porter, if there comes a point in the game where a game is tight and a superstar goes to the bench in what feels like a critical moment of the game, it would not be ridiculous for people to look and ask the question, is this to have a certain number cash? Is this to have a certain number hit? And I even will take it one step further. I understand the concern when you turn on games now. And this is not just a basketball program. This is a problem. This is a football problem. This is a lot of different folks' problems. It started a couple of years ago on a Thursday night in the NFL. And I don't remember what game it was, but I remember that it happened. There was a garbage time, like safety. It's like a weird point was scored in the NFL. And Al Michaels, on the mic calling the game, said there is going to be a large group of people who are very interested in that whatever it was, safety, last second garbage field goal, whatever. A lot of people effectively saying that garbage time point flipped the point spread over, right? Team that was not going to cover now all of a sudden is covering. Gambling has become not prevalent. Gambling has become like everything about even the coverage of sports. Tune in to Fox NFL pregame on Sunday before the Panthers play the Packers. Not only do I have what's his face, the bald guy, not Glazer, the other dude, the white dude, Matthew Berry.
Wait, is Glazer not white? I thought
no, I mean the pale like you are right now white guy, Matt Berry.
All right.
Berry comes on, and Matthew Berry gives he's got like a 2-minute segment where he gives you his best parlay and props and this, that, and the other, and they take away from coverage of the game to do this featured segment, the sponsored featured segment. And they're like, and go now to whatever book and use code Barry and get $50 back bet match or whatever. And I get it. It's a huge industry right now. Huge industry. But if you're not a fan of it, if you don't care about it, if you're not on board with it, I can get how you would feel. Well, how in the world am I supposed to believe that these books don't have some level of influence when they've got enough influence that NFL pregame shows in the last minutes leading up to kickoff of 6 afternoon NFL games, they're getting primetime slots here. How am I supposed to believe that there's not some impact? And so when the NBA has Jonte Porter, when the NBA has Terry Rozier, and again, maybe you look and you go, okay, well, Chauncey Billups and Gilbert Arenas and these guys, they were all involved in a illegal poker game. It is more than fair. We've all seen The Sopranos. It is more than fair to say, if you are involved in a mafia gambling ring, is it really far-fetched to believe that when Chauncey Billups wrapped up another rigged poker game and was sitting at the table and they were counting up their boxes of ziti at the end of the night and having a conversation, that one of the guys in Casa Nostra would lean over and go, hey, Chauncey, I may or may not have the Blazers -2.5 tomorrow night. I may have you +7.5. What do you say? You yank a couple of guys late in that game and let's make sure the under cashes, right? It's not far-fetched. In fact, I'd be more shocked if that didn't happen than if it did. So there's a lot of concern.
I think the natural progression when you think about this stuff is going there for sure.
Yeah. The premise of, and again, this may shock you. I've never been in nor around the mafia that I'm aware of. That's not true. I went to an Italian joint, I won't say where, one time, here in town, and watched a dude in a full-blown suit walk in and watch the people there set up a screen around his table by himself in the back of the restaurant. Now, maybe this guy's just a guy who comes in and drops a G a night because he really loves their Italian food. But when a couple of other guys show up and walk behind that screen with him, it's like, honey, why don't you finish up that lasagna? We need a GTFO. We got to go, rapidly.
You've also spent some time in Spartanburg. Spartanburg Mafia is a real thing.
Yeah, but, do they have, the mafia? Or they got, a country mafia? And I'm not saying, they're not terrifying. I'm just saying it's a different mafia than I think we're talking about here.
Go over, drive around Old Town Spartanburg, where the big houses are.
Okay. So here's why I bring all of this up. The integrity of the league is obviously the most important thing to the NBA and to everybody else. If the integrity of the game itself is gone, so is the sport. Because what I think would end it is not just that fan support would completely disappear, but I think fan support would completely disappear, and you would end up in a spot where I think the anti-trade exemptions that the NBA has would go away. Congress would be like, yeah, no, if this is a thing that happens, it happens a lot, we're going to open up the door for somebody else to prop up a league that doesn't have that problem. Because if you've got the mafia involved, you can't clean that out. What the mafia does is get you involved. They get you to do some illegal stuff. And now they've got you on the hook. You can't get out from under the thumb. And so sometimes the only way to get rid of that is just burn it down.
Wouldn't you think that basketball would be the easiest game to fix?
1,000%.
Yeah.
And that leads to the story that broke yesterday. The NBA, and I do want to point out, they did take some steps this past offseason, and now I think it's fair to say, did you do this because you knew what was coming down the pipe, or did you do this because you were like, let's be preemptive? I don't know. But this past off season, the NBA had a conversation with sports books about the way that they offered certain props. They asked sports books, please do not offer an over-under prop on player fouls, number of times a player fouls, because that's easily to manipulate, right? If a player knows my foul number is 3.5, I can tell everybody in my life, bet over, go out there and just hack the crap out of people, get to 5. Now the over cashes, and it doesn't impact the game all that much. They had a number of props that they asked the books, please do not offer these. And most of them actually followed that. Most of the books said, okay, you can't bet over-under on fouls. There were a few more the NBA asked for, and the book said, no, we're not going to take that off, but what we will do is we will change the way that it's offered. We'll change the way that, like, in real time it's offered, right? So, like, we won't post a guy's over-under free throws made line until the game starts or 5 minutes out or whatever it's going to be. So the NBA is going to be having, over the next few weeks, multiple conversations with their sportsbook partners, their sponsors, effectively. They're going to have a conversation with their partners where they are going to discuss what are the props that are most vulnerable to be manipulated by players and coaches in the NBA, and what are the ways that we can limit their ability to do that. There is a conversation about offering limits on numbers. So you can, let's say, bet on player rebounds, but you can only bet X amount of dollars on them, right? Like you can only, no matter how big of a fish you are, you can only bet $50 that a guy's going to go over the rebound number. Why? Because it's probably not worth a guy's NBA career, even if everybody he knows can only put $50 on it. Like, nobody's doing that. One of the issues with, to go back to the Terry Rozier situation, the FBI report said that Rozier told a confidant in that game when he was with the Hornets, that is kind of like the centerpiece of this conversation. Rozier told a friend of his that he planned on removing himself from the game due to injury. And the way that this confidant made money was selling that information to bettors. He racked up like $100,000 by telling people, hey, I got a tip, a guarantee straight from the player. You give me 5G, I'll tell you a prop that is guaranteed to hit tonight. So he took a bunch of people's money. They all went and bet everything under for Terry Rozier. He yanked himself from the game in 10 minutes. None of his overs hit. They all made money. So one of the things the NBA is talking about doing is, do we limit how much even the biggest fish can bet on certain props? Do we get rid of props at large? Do we just not offer props anymore? They don't offer props in college basketball, for instance. At least none of the American books do, and that is by the NCAA's pushing. There are some books that will. Many of them are overseas books, which are available, but you can do it. So I'm curious to see where the NBA goes from here. Adam Silver early this week, was doing either a halftime or a post-game interview. I think it may have been in game. Now think about it, because there was basketball happening behind him. Was doing an interview with the sideline reporter, and they were firing off a bunch of questions at Adam Silver about the gambling scandal. And Adam Silver sounded completely dumbfounded, like he just did not have answers. It was the most flabbergasted that I have ever seen a league commissioner. He just looked completely lost. So two things happened yesterday. The first is that it was announced that the NBA would be having meetings with its sportsbook partners to try to come up with a way to make it either impossible or as difficult as possible for players and coaches to manipulate the lines. The second thing that came through, and this is the one that I'm really interested in, is Congress has called for Adam Silver to come to Capitol Hill. And again, we got to get through the shutdown and all that. But Congress has asked Adam Silver to come testify in front of them about what has happened and what the NBA is doing it to prevent it from happening moving forward. And there is the thought that the NBA could be threatened by Congress. Hey, if you guys don't tell us what happened, how it happened, why it happened, and what you're doing to make it not happen, then maybe your antitrust exemption is going to be threatened for the first time. Maybe we would pull that away from you. And if that was to happen, that could be game-changing. That could be game-changing. There was a letter from Congress that was drafted, right? And it was from one member, but it has the support of others saying, you've got to come talk to us so we can figure out what is going to happen moving forward to make this not a thing. Why is Congress involved with sports? Again, antitrust exemption and tens of millions of dollars that other people are not allowed to use, which is not something Congress loves to do. We'll talk more about this later in the show. Hour number 2, Friday Football Fiesta. We're getting into all the X's and O's over the weekend. We got a lot of guests coming up later. I'll tell you who they are. All of that and more after Lonzo reads his sports flash completely and entirely in character.
Not going to happen because I will die. Lamar Jackson's return for the Baltimore Ravens led the 28-6 win over the Miami Dolphins, unless I am the character last night. Jackson completed 18 to 24 passes for 204 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. Derrick Henry went off for 119 yards on 19 carries as well. Hamstring looks good. Weird. Game 6 of the World Series will begin tonight at 8 o'clock with Yoshinobu Yamamoto towing the rubber for LA and Kevin Gausman countering for the Blue Jays. Blue Jays are hoping that George Springer will be available, though it may be a game time decision. If the Dodgers win, Game 7 will be tomorrow night at the same time. And the Panthers quarterback Bryce Young was listed as a full participant in practice yesterday. The Panthers haven't made a statement about Young's playing status this Sunday against the Packers yet, but you know, it looks like he probably will play. Hour number 2 coming up next.
Rob Brown Show is on your radio. Oh, no, I'm good with this. Yep. He did the mash. The monster mash. He did the mash. He did the mash.
Sorry, stream. All you're getting is him saying the mash.
I got my I and my woo backwards. That's my bad. All-time banger. Just an all-time banger. All-time banger. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you're just a couple of dead men doing the show today. Join us on the live stream at facebook.com/the Fan Upstate, the Fan Upstate on YouTube, the Fan Upstate on Twitter, the Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch for our Halloween spooktacular. Lonzo broke out the OG dead man, the WrestleMania 1 Undertaker. Rob Brown did put it in order for a full top-to-bottom wig, mask, spandex, and boots Kane outfit to roll up in here as the Brothers of Destruction, which then he then got an email Thursday morning saying, we've delayed your delivery by one day. It'll be here on Saturday, which did me no good at all. No good at all. So I decided to audible Omaha came as the American Badass version of The Undertaker to match the raw energy being put off by the OG dead man on the other side. We have got a Halloween spooktacular, if you will, scary good show lined up for you today. Let me tell you what we got going on. Coming up in this very segment, here in just mere moments from now, your water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports with your friends, family, coworkers, supervisors, managers, bosses, IT guys, janitors, whoever you spend your day talking sports with. This is what you're going to be talking about. Then we will spend the remainder of this hour talking about the biggest and most importante football games of the weekend upcoming. Then in the next hour of the show, we'll get to some National Football League. We got that for you in the 8 o'clock hour. At 8:40, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast is going to swing by. We'll check in on the Cats after a WrestleMania Undertaker ass whooping put on them by the Buffalo Bills last Sunday. And it's not going to get much easier as they've got the Packers coming up on Sunday. Some interesting news. Bryce Young did practice, full participant yesterday, as did a number of other players. Xavier Legette, however, out. And Brady Christensen, starting offensive lineman, on the IR, ruptured his Achilles last week against the Bills. So he is headed to the IR, and that kind of changes up the offensive line. We'll see what Rashad has to say about that later on in the radio program. Coming up at 9 o'clock, the fellas from the Moving the Chains podcast are going to swing by. They will set you up for the high school football weekend around the upstate of South Carolina. And then at 9:20, the illustrious Denton Day will swing by. We'll talk to Denton Day, the host of SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. We'll get his thoughts on the biggest matchups from around college football, as well as his thoughts on Heisman updates, his thoughts on South Carolina Ole Miss, Clemson Duke, and more. All that coming up at 8:20. But it is 7:00. Almost 5 in the morning. You have got right now, bang, 55 minutes till you've got to be to the office. You got to be showered, dressed, have your coffee, eat your breakfast, get in the car, drive on in there. Pretend that you care about your job for the next 8-ish hours when we all know the truth. The truth is you're ready to get out of work, go home, put on the costume, have yourself a lovely Halloween party on a Friday night. Then wake up tomorrow. Get in a little game day, a little big noon kickoff, whatever your preference is, and strap in for another day of college football. Then have yourself a nice sound sleep throughout the evening. Wake up, and it is time for NFL Sunday. And then we all gather back here on Monday to talk about it all. However, you want to talk about it today, you got to know what's going on. You got to know what's going on. Worry not, my dear friends. That's what we're here for, and that is why we do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar? The Almanac of the absurd and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying, first bathroom break.
It's the gloves, man.
I feel the dead air for you. We got it. We covered it.
It's like, you know.
Upstate.
Water cooler cheat sheet, top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office this AM and start talking sports with your coworkers. This is what you will be talking about. Let's dive right in. It's item number 1, but it's kind of like an honorary mention. So like item 0.5. 28-6, the Ravens knock off the Dolphins last night. Lamar Jackson made his return for Baltimore, and boy, howdy, did he look vintage. 18 of 23, 204, 4 touchdown passes for Lamar last night. 2 of them.
You know, Rob, he hardly looks like he ever had an injury.
Hey, he had plenty of recovery time and the best healthcare professionals available. 4 touchdown passes. 2 of them went to tight end Mark Andrews, who had 2 catches, 2 touchdowns last night. And it wasn't that Lamar wasn't spinning the bean well that he only threw 23 passes. Is that obviously they were kicking the dog snot up out of the Dolphins. Oh, and BT Dubs, Derrick Henry is back. 19 carries, 119 yards. As Chris Berman might say, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. Derrick Henry last night over on the other side of the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, 25 of 40, 261, 1 pick, no touchdowns. A QBR of 22.7, a rating of 70.9. They had 87 total rushing yards, 67 from HN. Malik Washington had 13. Through the air, Jalen Waddle had 82 yards. Nobody else had more than 49. That was Greg Dulcich. Look, the Dolphins are bad at football right now. That is why the win over Atlanta last weekend was shocking, to say the least. The only thing that jumped off the television screen about the Miami Dolphins, a long way from number 1 last night. Holy crap, were the Boo Birds out. The only quarter that the Boo Birds were not louder than Alan Kirk was in the 4th, and that was only because the Dolphins fans all left. This is a catastrophe. Prediction, Lonzo. Mike McDaniel is not the head coach of the Miami Dolphins by the end of today. I don't think he gets out of today after what happened.
What is his buyout?
I don't know. I know that what I saw last night was a team that is checked out, a locker room that has been lost, and on top of that, there was one spot in particular that I went, it is over for Mike McDaniels and his coaching staff. Ollie Gordon II is a backup running back for the Dolphins. Ollie Gordon had checked in. He was in pass pro. Ollie Gordon on a drop back pass from Tua Tagovailoa tried to shift over to block a defensive end. Ollie Gordon tripped. It was obvious what happened. He was still a long ways out. He tripped, and as he tripped, put his arm out to catch himself, and a couple of body parts got into the legs of an edge rusher. The edge rusher goes to the ground. Referees call a 10-yard tripping penalty. You can't do that. However, it was clearly and obviously a trip and fall, not a, oh crap, I got bait, and trying to save his ass. He goes to the sideline, and the running back coach for Miami, who has been fired from like 3 consecutive jobs that he's had, the running backs coach for Miami goes off on this. I mean, like clearly dropping the F-bombs, calling him every name under the sun. Ollie Gordon takes off his helmet, spikes it into the ground. He's yelling at the coach. The coach is yelling at him. There's nothing happening good on that sideline. As soon as I saw that, and then you add in a 28-6 beatdown at the hands of the Ravens, who are now, by the way, 3-5. Granted, most of those 5 were sans Lamar. The Dolphins are cooked, and I don't think Mike makes it out of today.
Let me throw a hypothetical out there. Let's say that you're a team that wants the number 1 pick, whether you're going to take it, use it, or trade, use it to get a bunch more picks. Why would you get rid of a coach who can't win and bring someone in who will accidentally win? You're going to fire him at the end of the season. Why not let him secure that number 1 pick for you?
I think the answer is, and I've had conversations about this with former NFL players before. In fact, I had this conversation with Roman Harper specifically. I very much remember after he retired, he got into, when he was going into broadcasting, he was doing some stuff with the Saints for a while there. And I had this conversation with him. I said, for a locker room, like a team obviously wants the number 1 pick, but There's a debate that goes on amongst fans. Are teams tanking, or are they just really that bad at the end of the year? And Roman said, and at this point, Roman was just getting into the game. Not that he was like a firebrand or a hot take guy, but like he was, he's willing to say stuff that NFL players would not. He said, listen, there is not, has not, and will never be an NFL player who agrees to tank. It will never happen. You will never have an owner, a GM, or a coach go out there and say, we're going to tank. Now, they obviously can pull some strings to make the team a little bit worse, but they're never going to do it intentionally, because he said the one thing that will kill a team longer than being bad for a year or two is if your locker room culture becomes toxic, because there is no guarantee that anybody can fix that. That is what will kick the legs out from your program faster than anything else. If your locker room becomes known to players as toxic, a new coach does not change that narrative around your locker room. So, yeah, you could keep Mike, be guaranteed to lose out the rest of the way, and put yourself in a position to be the number one overall selection next year. But the question mark is how many guys that you would need to stick around in order to rebuild around a new quarterback next year if Tua Tagovailoa is done there. How many guys would say, no, bro, like this locker room is a garbage fire and I want out?
Well, you can fix that too, because trade deadline, I think, is next year.
Oh, they're
next week.
It's next week. It's the 4th.
So you get rid of some of your better players, the guys who would be vocal, who would be leaders. You get rid of them, get some more picks out of them. You know you're not going to be good next year, but you start building for the next year.
Listen, I get what you're saying, and I'm not even saying that that's not what happens. I know it's not going to be openly spoken about. I will say that you would rather give yourself a chance for the players, even if you are going to trade your guys. And I think if you're the Dolphins, you have to. Even if you're going to trade your guys, there are still guys on that team that are going to be part of that team next year. There just are. Me personally, I would rather give my guys in the locker room an opportunity to fix the locker room under an interim coach. I'd rather give the locker room a chance to fix itself and limit how much damage is done for a rebuild next year than allow the locker room to continue to be covered in toxicity and understand that, like, I may have to build this thing, not even from the foundation up. I may have to rebuild the foundation next year. So it's theory. It's philosophy. We'll see how it plays out. I'm going to finish this up with the other half of this item. Different sport, but not a lot to get into because we'll do a preview later on the show. 8 p.m. tonight, World Series game number 6. The Toronto Blue Jays back home leading this series 3-2 over the LA Dodgers. The Dodgers are favorites in the game. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will toe the rubber for LA. Toronto will counter with Kevin Gausman. These two guys have been relatively good. Gausman did not get his first start I believe until the ALCS. He had been working a lot of pen work, a lot of relief and closer work earlier in the playoffs. Yamamoto has been pretty good overall. First time out against Toronto, a complete game, 9-inning effort, 9 hits, 1 run allowed against the Toronto Blue Jays. Gausman's last time out was against these same Dodgers. It was in the 5-1 loss. Gausman worked 6.2, gave up 4 hits, and 3 of the 5 runs, 2 of them came off of LA dingers. So it's a get-right spot for Kevin Gausman. Yamamoto, after going 9 in, game 2, has a chance to continue to have one of the best postseasons in recent memory off the bump. That game at 8 o'clock tonight, the Dodgers minus 145 on the money line. Depending on where you want to look at them, over under 7.5 in this game. Toronto is favored to win the series, however, as they just need to win one of the 2 taking place in Toronto. We'll check in on the World Series later on, but let's get to item number 2. A couple of basketball stories for you here very quickly. I will start with this one. The WNBA and the WNBA Players Association have agreed to extend their collective bargaining agreement terms for 1 month. They had a deadline of tomorrow. That deadline is now extended through November 30th. The current CBA was set to expire, today, not tomorrow. I forgot that it's Friday, not Thursday. I'm dumb. We'll get there. The current CBA was set to expire today, a scenario that would have opened the door for either a strike by the players or a lockout initiated by the owners, or both. But the two sides reported yesterday that they feel that they are close enough to justify pushing the deadline back 1 month. It follows a similar path to the most recent round of CBA negotiations after the 2019 season. At that point, the two sides agreed to a 60-day extension. They agreed to a new deal in January. of 2020. There have been multiple meetings between the WNBA and the WNBA-PA as part of the negotiations. The big sticking point right now seems to be that the WNBA Players Association has proposed sizable increases to the league's minimum and maximum salaries, which they say reflects revenue generated by the WNBA since the last CBA was signed. On the flip side, the league's proposal maintains revenue targets that would allow players to share in future growth. The salary cap would remain fixed during the deal if those targets are not met. So effectively saying, you bump the revenue up, we'll bump the salary cap up, we'll bump what you can make up, and we'll give you some other benefits involved. The WNBA PA is saying, no, the revenue is already up, which it is. Revenue, it's important, is just money coming in. It does not take into consideration expenses, whether you're in the red, whether you're in the black. It is just money coming in. The WNBA players are saying revenue's up. If you guys can't figure out how to make a profit off of it, that's on you. But revenue is up, and we want a slice of that pie. The other basketball story, Adam Silver has 2 meetings coming up. Number 1, the NBA is going to be having meetings, multiple plural, with its sports book partners in order to discuss what type of bets are most vulnerable to manipulation and how much bettors should be allowed to wager on those bets, according to sources via ESPN. Before this season, the NBA identified missed free throws, fouls, and turnovers as types of wagers most susceptible to manipulation, asked their partner sportsbooks not to offer those bets. FanDuel and DraftKings told ESPN that they agreed to the NBA's request. FanDuel did not offer such wagers in past seasons. DraftKings had offered in-game betting on players making or missing free throws, but those offerings were not available before a game. You could live bet them, but not bet them once the players were on the court. Obviously, is a way to prevent the players from telling other people, hey, I'm going to go miss a bunch of free throws tonight, bet my under, and selling that information, which is what happened with Terry Rozier. The other part of that story, Adam Silver has gotten a letter from, now granted it's from one congressman, but that congressman has support from other members. Once the lockdown is over, Adam Silver may very well be catching a subpoena from a congressional committee to come discuss what has happened with the NBA and how the NBA plans on addressing that moving forward. Why would Congress get involved? The answer is because the NBA has antitrust exemptions like most of the pro sports leagues do. But if the NBA is, and again, if this scandal keeps getting worse, if the NBA is proven to be not just having players rig games or rig stats or rig bets, but more importantly, and I do think that this is a possibility, if the NBA knew about it and covered it up, and this was a question that's been asked because, hey, if you caught Terry Rozier dead to rights, shaving stats, not points in this point, but shaving stats in this point, if you caught them dead to right, how was Terry Rozier allowed back into the NBA? How was Terry Rozier allowed to play basketball ever again? And I think it's a fair question to ask. We'll come back to that later on the show as well. Let's get very quickly to item number 3. I also would like to spend some time on this. Yesterday, we told you Jeff Landry, the governor of Louisiana, got involved in LSU's business. The governor of Louisiana held a press conference. He acknowledged 2 things. Number 1, that he held a meeting at the governor's mansion with the board of trustees where the argument was made about whether or not Brian Kelly should be fired. Ultimately, on Sunday, Brian Kelly was fired. Now, this is very interesting. Right now, today, Brian Kelly is still technically still employed by LSU because they have not agreed on the structure of the buyout yet. And until they do that and both parties sign the paper, Brian Kelly still technically works for LSU until that is done. He just isn't going to be allowed to coach. But blah, 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 put that to the side. Jeff Landry, the governor of Louisiana, said yesterday a few things. He said, number 1, I held the meeting. They're out. Number 2, we are going to have a committee that is going, we don't know who's on it. I believe it is the Board of Governors ultimately that will be tasked with the responsibility that hasn't been made clear. He said, we are going to pick the new head coach. And number 3, he specifically said Scott Woodward, the athletic director at LSU, will not be involved in the process. Said he screwed up the Jimbo Fisher selection, which, by the way, I would like to point out, not the way that Woodward described, or not the way that Landry described it. He said he's the reason that A&M owed Jimbo Fisher over $70 million. No, he's not. He's the reason they hired him. But the extension that raised the buyout to astronomical proportions was actually Ross Bjork, the new AD at Ohio State. Number 2, he repeatedly reiterated Brian Kelly got fired because it's a failure and he's tired of the taxpayers being on the hook, despite the fact that like 95% of Brian Kelly's salary is not paid by taxes. It is paid from sponsorships, media rights, and private donations, boosters, whatever. So Landry's not totally being truthful in the way he's addressing this situation. But he still has created the situation, and it led to yesterday when I said, if the governor's going to come out and talk bad about the AD, why would anybody want to attach themselves to the AD? He hired Kim Mulkey, won a natty for the women's basketball team. He hired Jay Johnson, won 2 national championships for the baseball team. The only one he's gotten wrong is Brian Kelly. Here's the thing. I said, even with that being the case, if the governor of the state of Louisiana, who technically runs the public education system, says this dude's toxic and he's not going to be the guy in charge of the decision that he should be in charge of, why would anybody have any faith in him as an AD? They don't. Yesterday, Scott Woodward fired as the athletic director of LSU. Verge Osbury, the executive deputy athletic director, will be the interim AD while they look for a new AD. Scott Ballard, LSU's Board of Supervisors chair, said, quote, "We thank Scott for the last 6 years of service as athletic director. He had a lot of success at LSU, and we wish him nothing but the best in the future." Oh, the old future endeavor presser. That's rough. So I want to talk about this later on in the show. We may get to it in this hour, may push it to the next, but the question is this a scary precedent for you? And by you, I mean literally everyone who is a fan of a football team, of a public institution. Is it a scary thought that a governor in one state clearly had the political power and was willing to throw it around to enact changes that clearly, and yes, I think most people wanted Brian Kelly gone from LSU, but they didn't pull the trigger until the governor got involved? Does that scare you, that a governor can throw his weight around and change the future of a program? Or do you look at this and you go, everybody wanted him gone, and the AD wasn't going to get him gone, so good for the governor for stepping in and giving the people what they want? This is a really interesting situation because both sides of that coin have some weight to it. We'll talk more about this later on. We got plenty to get to, talking some college football in this hour of the show. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate.
Mad World.
All right, guys, stay right there. Got to do a live read. We'll come back in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. And I know why he did it, and I get it, but I'm still going to have fun with it. Clemson taking on Duke, South Carolina at Ole Miss. And I came to a realization about these two games. First off, they are both absolutely losable games for both of these teams. Duke can absolutely beat the Clemson team that we have seen playing football this year. Ole Miss is the number 4 team in the country, and it's a good football team. However, both of these games are very winnable as well. And the realization I came to last night is that I genuinely believe that there is one factor for both teams that I think is the reason that Clemson can win or lose against Duke. South Carolina can win or lose against Ole Miss. For Clemson, it is the defensive front seven. This Duke team can move the football. Darian Munsey is a dude. He's got legs. He's got an arm. He's got talent. It's not the greatest set of skill position talent around him, but it's better than Duke's had in years gone by. This Duke football team can absolutely move the football behind Darian Mensah. He has a complete quarterback. There's a reason the Cat's getting like $3.5 million in NIL playing at Duke. He is, talent-wise, arguably the best quarterback they've ever had. Like Danny Dimes and Darian Mensah, and that might be the list. So, the question mark for Clemson is very much your defensive front seven. This is a front seven that I do not think, it is a hot take to say, has been disappointing. This was a front seven that I spent the offseason on nationally syndicated radio programs, on podcasts, on shows where I was putting my reputation as a professional knower of ball on the line. And I can't tell you how many times I said, yeah, I picked the Clemson Tigers as my national champion this year. And I didn't do it to kiss up to you guys. I was doing this on shows that some of you will never come across in your life. Big shows, small shows, whatever. I was doing this on shows some of you will never hear before and will never hear. And I was picking Clemson as your natty winner. Not because I'm from here, not because I needed to kiss up to you. I was doing it because I genuinely believed it to be true. And the rationale that I used to tell everyone that I told I think Clemson is a natty was the defensive front seven from the Clemson Tigers. We can talk about Cade Klubnik as a potential Heisman finalist. We can talk about the fact that they finally have some wide receivers. We can talk about the fact that talent-wise, it looks like they've gotten back to what we expect from a Dabo-coached Clemson Tiger football team. But if they're going to win this, it is because they have a front seven that has multiple NFL first and second rounders on it, and because they went and they got Tom Allen, who I love as a defensive coordinator. And I thought, when you have the talent that you have across the front seven, and when you've got Tom Allen, who is known for, A, having some very unique looks on the defense, but B, more importantly, being stupid aggressive in attacking an offense. When you put those two things together, that is an absolutely, I think, perfect recipe for this team to be able to get after anybody. And that's why I picked you. And I think that is also why I say the defensive front seven for Clemson might be the most disappointing group in college football. I mean, maybe Penn State is the answer to that. But as far as like a unit or a position, I think Clemson's defensive front seven might be it. It just hasn't been there. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I blame coaching from the standpoint of player development. I don't know if I blame coaching from the standpoint of just getting the boys ready to go murder quarterbacks. I don't know if I blame coaching from the standpoint of the play calling's not what I thought it was going to be. Or I don't know if I blame the players for just not playing with pride, heart, grit, aggression, moxie, whatever you want to say. I don't know. I don't know. And I think that's why it's disappointing, because I don't know where I want to put the blame on the failure of Clemson's front seven. What I will say is if that front seven is not excellent against Darian Mensah and against the Duke Blue Devils, if you're not excellent, he'll beat you. This is a very losable game for the Clemson Tigers. And I think it will be predicated on. Listen, Chris Vizina was fine against SMU. Cade Klubnik has looked better his last two games before he got hurt and had to go sit on the bench for a little while. It may take him a while to get going. Obviously, with the loss of Wesco, that changes up everything, as he was the number one wide receiver, at least statistically, until he got injured and had to put the season to bed. But you still got guys on the offensive side of the football. Adam Randall's look better. You still got guys that can step up into the wide receiver core if Cade Klubnik comes out and he's good. And we'll find out. But I really think you can win this game 10-7. You can win this game 10-3, 14-10, 14-7. You can win a low-scoring game against Duke. You can score a touchdown or two and win this game still if your front seven plays the way your front seven should play. Because you'll take Darian Mensah out of the game. And if you take him away from Duke, Duke really doesn't have a counterpunch. For South Carolina, the entire game is hinged on Mike Shula in the playbook. We had a texter yesterday who said that they believe, and I got to tell you, the more I think about it, the more I think he might be right. The first 3.5 quarters against the Alabama Crimson Tide felt like a Sean Elliott offense. Felt like what he was running when he was at Georgia Southern. Felt like an offense that was a little bit more wide open, a little bit more creative, unique blocking systems. We're going to take slots, line them up off guard as an effective additional offensive lineman. We're going to have guys come out of the slot, crack back on the D lineman, tackle, pull around. We're going to have a lot of different looks that we didn't show before this that made Alabama defensively get off balance, get off kilter. And once that happened, now the offense is opened up. And on top of that, it wasn't turn around, give ball, running back goes center, running back get tackled. Right? Like, it was creative. They're getting the ball to the outside. They're using misdirection. Misdirection is used primarily to do what? To make the defense sit still until the revelation of where the ball is going. We saw the misdirection. I'm not going to say trickeration because it wasn't like a bunch of gadgets. It was just we're moving the ball in ways we haven't moved the ball. And then we got to the fourth quarter. We got to the two most important drives of the football game. And what happened? You went right back to the Mike Shula playbook of the first 7 games. That was the reason I thought you were going to get blown out. As I told Dre on Friday, look, man, I know you're saying we got Lenoris, we got some playmakers, that's why we can win. Cool. But why would I see an offense that went 7 weeks without doing that suddenly expect them to do it in week 8? I shouldn't. They did. I shouldn't have expected it. So now the question is, do they break that out in this game against Ole Miss? Do they go to Ole Miss? Do they go with the first 3.5 quarters that they had against Ole Miss where the playbook was open? Or do they go right back to what they were doing the first 7 games when they kept getting their asses whipped? I don't know what the answer to that is. What I do know is the answer to that is the answer to can you or can you not win the football game? If you go with the first 3.5 quarters, if you do to Ole Miss what you did to Alabama, you can beat Ole Miss just like you were beating Alabama. But if you go back to what you did to finish the game against Alabama, an offense that cannot beat Alabama, you also cannot beat Ole Miss. It really, these 2 games, and we'll get into the X's and O's. Denton Day joining us in a couple of hours. We'll get his thoughts. But I genuinely believe both teams are capable of winning this game. And more importantly, I believe the way to win the game comes down to one guy or one unit. For Clemson, defensive front 7. Limit Darian Mensah, you'll beat the Duke Blue Devils. For South Carolina, open up the playbook, go back to the trickeration, go back to the blocking schemes, go back to everything you did against Alabama for 3.5 quarters. You can beat Ole Miss. You know how to stop Trinidad Chambliss. You've stopped him because you play practice against Lenora Sellers all the time. Question mark is, can you open up the playbook and take advantage if you do that? All right, when we come back, let's take a look at the rest of the college football schedule for the weekend. Biggest games, highest impact games, and what the AP poll, and remember next week, first playoff poll drops as well. We'll talk about that when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Stay right there, guys. I gotta go get my cup. BRB. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate, a hashtag Friday Football Fiesta. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. Let's take a look at the game's impact around the rest of college football.
I have a problem.
Gloves are a little tight.
Static electricity. I don't know if you can see the hair is like now going towards the microphone, and see. I hope it doesn't short anything out. I don't know how to fix that.
Got a couple of Undertakers in the building today. Got the OG WrestleMania 1 Undertaker, got the American Badass, all dressed in black Undertaker rolling in here today. Was gonna be Kane so we could pull off the Brothers of Destruction, but my costume got delayed. Isn't gonna be here. Well, wasn't gonna be here. I canceled it. I was like, nope, give me my money back. I'm real mad at you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you're gonna get. I mean, because you would be ready for next year or whatever.
I would be, but like that takes the fun out of it. Like now I'm just a random Kane. We were gonna go full Brothers of Destruction. That was gonna be great. So instead, we're just a couple of Undertakers. Same guy of destruction is our costume theme this year. Let's take a look at the rest of college football. We talked a little South Carolina. We talked a little Clemson as they get set for their games coming up tomorrow. Look, I did the short segment in the hour on those two games because I really do think those two games, and we can talk more about the X's and O's. South Carolina fans, I would love to hear your thoughts on a probable or potential upset against Ole Miss. Clemson fans, what are you looking for? Like, what are you looking, I would say forward to, but what are you looking just for in general in your game back off of the bye week against a talented, not great, but talented, but unranked Duke Blue Devil team? We're going to talk about that. Clemson favored by 3.5 in that game. South Carolina on the road. Let me get the updated line for you on that one. Ole Miss favored by 12.5. That is a growing number, by the way. It was at 11.5. I think it was 10.5 at the open, now up to 12.5, which means the money is hammering Ole Miss to whip on the Gamecocks. We'll talk about that a little bit more with Denton Day coming up at 9:20. Rashad Beard in an hour from now to talk Carolina Panthers, and the fellas from the Moving the Chains pod at 9 o'clock straight up to set you up for the high school football weekend upcoming. Let's take a look at the rest of the impactful college games of the weekend. We open up with the number one team in the country in what preseason looked like it might very well be the game of the year in college football. Penn State at Ohio State. Instead, we are looking at a 3-4, 0-4 in the Big Ten Penn State Nittany Lions squad, who are now a 19.5 point underdog to the Ohio State Buckeyes. I will say the line is moving in the direction of Penn State. It was 20.5 initially. I told Brad and Ryan on BetMGM tonight on Tuesday. Ohio State, I was comfortable taking them at 20.5. And I would take them at 20.5 because I don't want that line to get to 21.5. I did not think it was going to go the other direction. I did not think that it was going to be going back to Penn State. That being said, what do you want me to say about Penn State? I mean, what can we say at Penn State right now? It's a tough spot to be in for the Nittany Lions. On the flip side, I pointed this out on the show earlier this week. If you were to look at a graph of football teams with the x-axis being offensive EPA adjusted to opponent quality and the y-axis being EPA adjusted to opponents defensively, the Ohio State Buckeyes have the number one defense in college football adjusted to opponent quality. And they have the number 2 offense adjusted EPA to opponent quality. The only team that's better than them in either quality, hilariously, the Indiana Hoosiers have the number 1 opponent adjusted EPA in college football. So, this Buckeye team is a team that opened the year with they look good, but I don't know how good they are. And now here we are going into week 10, and this is clearly the best team in college football right now.
Well, the questions going into the season, you're bringing in a quarterback, a new starting quarterback, and who knew if Matt Patricia's defense could translate to college football? And both of those things have been answered. And I think those were definitely the question marks. I'm a little worried. I'm not a lot worried, but I'm a little worried because coming off of bye, let's hope that players aren't believing the hype and still come out hungry. because Penn State still has a lot of really good players on that team, and they could shock you.
I am going to say, great one, that as much as I am a subscriber to and believer of the any given Saturday mentality, no, they can't. No, they can't. The only way that Penn State is even making this game interesting is if, like, Ohio State voluntarily plays their backups. All of them. Like, all 22 guys. I genuinely, like, and granted, I know that this is one that some can push back because I said last week I thought Bama was going to beat the brakes off of South Carolina. So,
that's,
like, cool.
That's why I made that face when you said that. It's like,
I know, and it's fair. But when I've made those predictions over the past few years, I've been right more often than I've been wrong. And I'm going to put this into this category. I don't see this is a game that preseason was like, circle this one in red. Even if you're not a fan of these two teams, like, you have to watch this football game. It might be the most important football game of the regular season. 2, man, like, if you're not a Buckeye fan or a Penn State fan, like, there's other better games on at noon to watch than this one, because I don't think it's going to be close.
Unless you want to scout for your team who you're going to play in the playoffs.
I mean, sure. That's in the books. Also at noon, number 9, Vanderbilt at number 20, Texas. As we all knew coming into the season, Vanderbilt, the higher ranked team between the two.
I mean, there's never a doubt.
Let me throw this one at you because I find this very interesting. Granted, lines are not set based on who's ranked higher, and we all know that at the end of the day, who's ranked higher is largely irrelevant until the playoff rankings drop, which, by the way, is next Tuesday. That's going to be a friggin', you know what's going to be a big day for us next week? Wednesday is going to be a big week for us because the playoff rankings drop Tuesday, and Tuesday is NFL trade deadline next week. So Wednesday is going to be chaos for us next week, and I look forward to it. Also, it is Vandy at Texas. Vanderbilt is a 3.5-point underdog on the road at Texas, despite the fact that we don't know if Arch Manning is going to be available or not. Can I tell you why I am not just leaning Vanderbilt? I'm considering a Vanderbilt money line win, like an outright win bet for Vanderbilt. There are stats that are not regularly discussed that I think should be. Most of the bets that I make are because I go and I find a matchup stat somewhere that I go, bang, there it is. Like, there's your take. I found mine for this game. The stat that I found for this game that makes me confident with a Vanderbilt to cover and maybe even a sprinkle on the outright money line win is Vanderbilt has the second most productive defensive lines in terms of causing havoc. By that, I mean average time to throw is an under for opposing quarterbacks, and those unders are caused by the defensive line. So effectively, average time to throw is below average, and it is credited primarily to the defensive line. Vanderbilt has the second best in the Southeastern Conference. They have one of the 5 best in America right now. We all focus in on Diego Pavia, Clark Lee. We should. They're football dudes. Diego's a dog. This is exactly the type of game that he gets up and lives for. It's not Diego Pavia and Clark Lee that, to me, are the most important part of this. It is the most important part. The most important part is the defensive line for Vanderbilt. And especially considering either you're going to go with Arch Manning, who, if you look at the games where Arch has struggled, it has primarily been because he's got to move around a bunch and he doesn't have time to throw, and that seems to be a problem for him. The second thing is Arch Manning might not go. And if they can't go, they're going to end up having to go with a quarterback who is a backup who has spent the last 4 years playing FCS ball and not exceptionally well. Like, he was fine, not exceptionally well. So with all of that being said, if Vanderbilt's bringing one of the best 5 defensive lines, at least statistically speaking, in football to Texas, Texas's offensive line, I heard a Texas Longhorn guy on a podcast yesterday describe them as, and I quote, leaky. If their offensive line is leaky and they're blocking for a quarterback who is either already struggling or is a backup who's going to get his first start and was a good but not great quarterback at the FCS level, like, why am I not picking Vanderbilt in this game? Why? Because Texas is at home? I mean, is that a scary place to play right now? I don't think so. Number 10, Miami is at SMU. The Canes are minus 10.5 against SMU. Listen, Miami should clear this hurdle and should do so easily. I think part of the reason that SMU is 10.5 and not closer to 12.5 is because a lot of people looked at the win over Clemson, and that I think they're giving it more credit than it deserved. With all due respect to the Tigers, I think they're giving it more respect than it deserves.
It's too late for that. Once you said that,
I mean, it is what it is. They're a 3-4 football team.
Yeah, that's true.
If I substituted any other team for Clemson, 0 of you would have been offended by that sentence. You're just offended because it's your team, and I get it, but I'm still right. I think SMU is getting a little credit. I like Kevin Jennings a lot. Here's the problem. Despite the fact that they failed to show it against Louisville, which is their one loss on the season, Miami's got one of the best 10 defenses in football, maybe one of the best 5 defenses in football. That is what Miami is this year. Carson Beck has been fine. He hasn't been great. He's not a Heisman frontrunner any longer. It's been Miami's defense that's gotten it done. They can eliminate Kevin Jennings as the impact factor. And if they eliminate Kevin Jennings as the impact factor in this spot, Miami's offense will be fine because SMU's defense is objectively not good.
What a drop for SMU between last year and this year.
It's enormous. And again, I did not expect the drop to be from the defense. Certainly not from a top 20 defense last year to a bottom 5 defense this year. Number 2, Indiana is at Maryland at 3:30. The Hoosiers 21.5 point favorites. That's a trick line. I love to bet the Indiana Hoosiers. 21.5 feels like a trap line. 20.5, I feel better. That touchdown plus the hook feels big for me against Maryland. Now, that being said, you know why I like betting Indiana on big lines more than anybody else? Kurt Cignetti and Fernando Mendoza do not let up. They do not take off the gas. If they can beat you by 60, they will beat you by 60. They do not care about showing respect or any of that. They want to crush you. I'm not going to touch that line. Indiana's going to win a lot. -7.5 for the Georgia Bulldogs over the Florida Gators at 3:30. That is the world's largest outdoor cocktail party at Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville, Florida, the butthole of America. Is there a word that Georgia doesn't run all over interim coach-led Florida? Is there a world that Georgia doesn't take out the fact that they are number 5 and not number 1 on the Florida Gators? I don't think that there is. Georgia -7.5. That also feels like a trap number, but I also feel like I feel like it's a trap that's set the wrong way. I think it's set to try to trick you into taking Florida in this spot, and I'm not going to fall for it.
So we don't get that our coach just got fired, so we're gonna play for him.
Yeah, I mean the interim coach, like Billy Napier is not. It's like Brian Kelly. Like there were some guys that like Billy Napier, but Billy Napier was never the guy that it felt like the guys were going to war for that cat, right? Like James Franklin left. Somebody pointed this out yesterday. I thought it was a great point. James Franklin was fired at Penn State. And it was like 3 days of everybody, including Penn State, talking about how amazing James Franklin is, right? Like, we are sad to see him go. He's a great guy. Just it wasn't working out, but he's a great guy, and he loves all these former players coming out telling these great stories about James Franklin. And he called me, and he reached out to me, and he helped me with this and that and the other. And then there's Brian Kelly, on the other hand, who literally zero people, not one person has said a nice word about. The statement of termination from LSU basically said it didn't work out. Not even really like a good luck in your future endeavors. Like they just straight up were like, we're moving on. That nobody. I got former LSU players posting videos of themselves literally kicking rocks over Brian Kelly. Billy Napier's kind of in the middle. Like there were some guys that were like, oh, okay. But like nobody's issuing these big, we're sad to see him go letters about Billy Napier. I don't know if there's the interim coach bump for the Florida Gators. What I do know is the Florida Gators are a football team that's got talent and just have done zero to utilize that. I think Georgia is a layup bet at -7.5. All right, we got a lot more college games we're going to get to. Some more top-ranked teams. We've got, coming up in the next hour, Rashad Beard in 40 minutes to talk about the Panthers. The Moving the Chains guys at 9 straight up to set you up with the high school weekend. Denton Day, college football overtime host on SiriusXM at 9:20 to give us his thoughts from the national perspective. And we've still got to get your NFL picks, predictions, projections, and prognostications as well. All that coming up on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Now, sit back, relax, light a candle, pour yourself a glass of red wine, and get that cigarette ready for when it's over, because Lonzo's about to seduce you with this sports flash.
No, I'm not. I'll be looking to make it through it. Lamar Jackson's return for the Baltimore Ravens led to a 28-6 win over the Miami Dolphins last night. Jackson completed 18 of 24 passes for 204 yards and 4 passing yards. 4 passing touchdowns, 4 passing yards. That would have been bad. Derrick Henry went off for 119 yards and 19 carries as well. Sorry, Rob karate chopped it. It freaked me out. Game 6 of the World Series will begin tonight at 8 o'clock. His hands are lethal with Yoshinobu Yamamoto towing the rubber for LA and Kevin Gausman countering for the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are hoping that George Springer will be available for this game. Panthers quarterback Bryce Young was listed as a full participant at practice yesterday. Panthers haven't made a statement about Young's playing status this Sunday against the Packers yet. Carolina also added offensive lineman Brady Christensen to the injured reserve with an Achilles rupture. Hour number 3 coming up next. Yay. I didn't cough. Shocker. If I keep progressing the way I am, I might need an Undertaker. Okay, that's weird. Like it's like Rob's there, but he's not really there. I don't know what's going on. I mean, let's take it to the thingy though, because I'm freaked out.
The Rob Brown Show is back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. Be a part of the program, 844-326-3663. That's the Hub City Spartanburger text line, 844-326-3663. You can also shoot us a phone call on that same number, should you elect to do so, 844-326-3663. South Carolina fans, Clemson fans, I have given you both my theories on your games this weekend. I think they are both winnable games. I think they are both losable games. I think they are both games that come down to one predominant factor. For the Clemson Tigers, the predominant factor to me is the defensive line. You are going to have to be good in order to try to eliminate Darian Mensah's impact on the football game. The kid can play. For South Carolina, Mike Shula, you're going to open up the playbook. You're going to do what you did against Bama for 3.5 quarters, or are you going to go back to what you were doing for the previous 7 games and the final 6 minutes against Alabama, which are the 6 minutes that cost you that football game? That's the game right there. Defensively, again, I think we've seen over the last couple of games, I think you've seen an up in the aggression of the defense as far as disrupting the pass game. You're going to have to contain Trinidad Chambliss. The guy can get outside and he can boot scoot a little bit. But we've seen teams like Arkansas who held him under 20 rushing yards. It can be done. And if you can keep that dude's legs from becoming the weapon, he's not a great passer of the football. I have called him a poor man's Lenore Sellers because he wants to escape and run around like Lenore's, but I'm not as afraid of his arm as I am Lenore Sellers. So if you can keep it contained, don't let his legs become the primary weapon, defensively you're going to be fine. And I think you can do that. I just don't know if your offense is going to be open up to scoring points like it did against Alabama. So those two are my thoughts on those 2 games. We've talked about some of the other big games around the college football world. We've got a few more that we will get into later on in the show. But I did want to jump into a conversation that now continues from yesterday. Jeff Landry is the governor of the state of Louisiana. And I don't know why. I have my theories. To be honest with you, I don't know if they're appropriate for the radio or not, but they are what they are. I've got my theories on why Jeff Landry has decided that he wants his fingerprints all over what is happening with LSU's head football coaching position. I do not think that anybody but the athletic department should be in charge of that decision. Now, you can say Scott Woodward should not be. He's the guy who hired Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. And I would like to point out that while at the time on the radio down in Florida, I pointed out that I don't think that hiring is going to work. I think Jimbo Fisher is a good coach. I don't think he's of the highest quality. I think you're paying him too much. I think you are doing it all on the fact that he got Jameis Winston. On the flip side, part of why you fire a coach is because, hire a coach is because he can get those type of recruits. He got Jameis Winston, which, by the way, Jameis Winston was going to Alabama. And one of, I think, we always have those butterfly effect conversations. What happens if the Dolphins sign Drew Brees, right? The NFL landscape probably looks different. Nick Saban probably never comes to the University of Alabama. They're probably never a dynasty, whatever. Jameis Winston is from Alabama, and Jameis Winston wanted to go to the University of Alabama, but Jameis Winston did not go to the University of Alabama because Jameis Winston wanted to play baseball. Nick Saban said, no, if you come here, you're a football player, nothing else. Jimbo Fisher was like, yeah, I don't give a damn if you play baseball. Don't get hurt, but like, cool. So he goes there. They win a natty in 2013. Jimbo Fisher quits on the team because he gets a buttload of money, but it was Ross Bjork who gave him the big extension. Scott Woodward also hired Brian Kelly. Another conversation, and I was here when that would happen. Another hiring that I said, this isn't going to work. I'm from Louisiana. I grew up around LSU football. I can tell you that the culture of LSU football, I'm not going to say it's like deeper or more passionate than anybody else, but it is definitely different than everybody else. And I'm not saying you have to ingratiate yourself into the culture. Certainly it helps if you can. I'm not saying you have to become like, you don't need to come down there and start doing crazy things like, shouting family. Like that's how you talk. What you do have to do is show up, allow the culture to be the culture while injecting your own part of it and win. And Brian Kelly's the most inauthentic, fraudulent person, fake person in football. So it was never going to work. You can go to Louisiana as a non-Louisianian. You can go to Louisiana and have a great time with people from Louisiana. They are welcoming of everybody. If you're there to be loud and have a good time, you're going to fit right in Louisiana. if you go there and you're fake, you're going to be ostracized. Like, that's just how that works. So I get not wanting Scott Woodward. And I'm fine with even saying we're going to go ahead and relieve Scott Woodward of his duties, find a new AD, and put that guy in charge of finding the new head coach. What I don't get is why Jeff Landry would decide that he needs to be the prominent voice in this conversation. He had the press conference earlier this week. He was on Pat McAfee's show yesterday talking about this. And I get it. Like, Landry has kind of become an LSU representative on Pat McAfee's show because, look, politics aside, the dude's entertaining. Like, he's a funny guy. So I get why that is a spot that he shows up. But, like, if I'm LSU, I'm aghast at this. No, dude, we don't want you involved in this, because now what you are announcing to the college football landscape, whether it's Lane Kiffin that you're going to go for or anybody else, what you are announcing, even though you have the, I think, best job in all of college sports, what you are announcing is that if you come here, our governor is going to have a heavy-handed approach to you and your job, right? It's nice to say, and Landry at some point, I am sure, will be coached into saying, hey, while I am here and I am concerned about the head football coaching position for the LSU Tigers, I'm not going to be involved once he's already said, like, I'm not going to be involved in picking the coach, but it's like, aren't you kind of doing that already? Like, you were involved in getting the last one fired. So if you're a guy like Lane Kiffin, and especially if, theoretically, maybe your politics don't match up with Jeff Landry's, right? Do you want to go there knowing now that the governor has a heavy influence on what happens with that job? And the other problem I have had, and I've mentioned this a few times, the other problem that I have had with this conversation is that Jeff Landry, while being actively involved, hasn't been completely honest in what he has been saying about Brian Kelly. He's told that off the top of my head, I know 3 things that are factually incorrect. I won't say he's outright lying about it. What I will say is, if you are going to be involved in the direction of the head coaching search of the LSU Tigers, you better know what you're talking about, right? So there's 3 things that he said. Number 1, he said that Scott Woodward cost Texas A&M over $70 million. That's not true. Ross Bjork did. Now, he was the reason that Jimbo Fisher was there in the first place.
I was going to say, if he hadn't hired him in the first place, that part wouldn't have happened.
Sure thing, but let's not pretend that at the time. Let's not pretend that Jimbo Fisher wasn't the most sought-after head coach in college football at that point in time. He was. Everybody wanted.
Why are you throwing all these caveats in there? It's like you're trying to defend Brian Kelly.
No, and not at all. I wanted Brian Kelly gone. I never wanted him there.
And the AD, the AD should still be there.
What I'm saying is, no. What he said is incorrect. And if you are going to move on from the athletic director, and more, but not even that, let me back that up one step. If you as the governor are going to be the governor who becomes the first the governor who gets directly involved with a hiring search for one position, right? Not get involved and be like, we want to change the way the athletic department is run because we don't like the way the financing is working. Fine, whatever. You are talking about, I am impacting the hiring and firing of the head coach. If you're going to get involved with that, I want to, at least if I'm a fan, know that you know what the hell is going on with that position. And when you say, one, that the AD that I am saying, and he didn't say I want him fired, but he did say he's not going to make the next pick. And if he's not going to make the next pick, what the hell's the point in paying him millions of dollars to do it? That's the guy that the reason that this thing happened at this other school is him, when it's not true. Like, okay, so you don't know what's happening. The second thing he said a number of times was that Jimbo Fisher, Brian Kelly, and Scott Woodward all have the same agent. That is also not true. They do not. In fact, none of them have the same agent. And he hammered that point a number of times. In fact, at the end of the clip from the press conference we played for you yesterday, he said, all you sports media people, you need to look in these agents because Brian Kelly, Scott Woodward, Jimbo Fisher all have the same agent. How's that not a conflict of interest? Well, it's not a conflict of interest because it's not true. They don't have the same agent. Okay. That is factually incorrect.
What are your sources where you found all that?
You can just go look at their agents. I did go look it up. That's why I know this.
I mean, people always say, I wish the government would come in and fix this. And in this case, the government is stepping in, whether you think they should or not, trying to fix something. And you're picking apart all the reasons why they shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, but so here's my thing. And the take that I have here is I don't regularly have an issue with the concept of the government as a representation of the will of the people trying to make the lives of the people better. What I have a problem with is when they lie about their reasons for doing it and when their reasons are underhanded for doing it. And I am going to say, if at this point, because Landry made those comments earlier this week, and then he went on McAfee's show yesterday and he repeated them again, which means that in 2 days, he had time to be told, and there's no doubt in my mind he was. They don't all three have the same agent. Woodward was not the reason Jimbo Fisher got paid $76+ million from Texas A&M. And hell, I forgot what the other one was, but he had three non-truths. I won't say lies, but that was 2 days ago.
So what you're telling me,
to fix them.
What you're telling me for the first time ever on radio or in media, period, you are saying that somewhere there's an honest politician.
Yes.
Somewhere there's an honest politician who never, and you just said he didn't lie.
Yes. No. What I said is I will not say that he lied. He may very well lie.
Okay.
There's a difference between I don't think he lied and I'm not going to say that he did. Making an accusation against somebody is not the same as saying he didn't do the thing. I'm just not going to say that he did because that's an accusation I don't want to make.
Well, just a quick question. So in the end, the AD and the coach should go, right?
The coach, yes. Brian Kelly, yes.
So you think the AD needs to stay just because of Kim Mulkey and all that?
No.
So you think the AD should go too?
No. I don't even have a stance on that. Here's the heart of the issue that I'm trying to get to. If we have in this one state a governor who is like, I am going to be directly hands-on involved with the hiring and firing of the head coach at a major institution in college football, that sets a precedent that I start to see it happen in other places too. And now, what do we have? We've got college David Tepper. Now we have not football guys who want to be invested in what is happening in a football program without any knowledge of why and how things work in a football program. And they only want to do it. And I believe this is true about a lot of folks. They only want to do it because if LSU hires the next guy and it goes on, Jeff Landry is going to freaking campaign in Louisiana on, hey, I want you guys more natties because I helped get the right coach. And if it doesn't work out, he's going to blame it on everybody else. Hey, I got him fired, but I told you I wasn't going to have a hand in doing that, right? Like, I do not think that the head coaching jobs at any particular school should be a campaign issue.
A politician is using a political move.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But in my college football, don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. And the second part of it is that let's put it this way. Let's flip this thing around. Clemson and South Carolina are both public institutions. What is the reaction? What's the vibe around here if at the end of this year, Henry McMaster comes out and he says, guys, I got to tell you, I'm really disappointed with the results of Shane Beamer, so I want him gone. And he was to step in and get involved in, and Jeff Landry didn't outright do this, but I guarantee it was the next in the playbook because this is always the playbook. The next thing was going to be threatening the financing of the university to not give him what he wants. That is a classic political move of governors around the country. If these institutions don't, Donald Trump's been doing it for since he got into office. If you don't give me what I want, I will threaten your federal funding, and the governors can say, I'll threaten your state funding if you don't give me what I want. So what would the reaction be if Henry McMaster at the end of this year says, I expected a better run from South Carolina. I want Shane Beamer out of here, and stepped in and got Shane Beamer fired, and then said, I'm going to put together the committee that is going to find the next head coach at South Carolina. I have to assume that the reaction around here would be like, no.
There is no way that Henry McMaster could say what you said as fast as you said it.
That's fair. It would take 5 minutes longer for him to say it, but like he would.
It's somewhere in the middle. You'll just forget what was he talking about? I don't know.
We just got a text that said, if you don't want the governor involved, don't involve taxpayer dollars in the coach's salary or the buyout. They don't, texter. That's the point. That is the other point of this, is you are having the governor involved in like the one job that taxpayer money is not funding. Coaches' salaries come from television revenue, merch, tickets, and private boosters. This is the reason why the decision to fire Brian Kelly, according to WDSU, a news station and a reputable one in Southeast Louisiana, the reason that the decision to fire Brian Kelly happened right after the NN game and rapidly was because one person stepped up and said, yo, I'll throw whatever the number is, $45-50 million towards his buyout. That's what, like, that's, I guess, that was the third mistruth of Jeff Landry, was him being like, I'm tired of rewarding failure and the taxpayers being on the hook. They're not. They're not on the hook. Coach's money doesn't come from taxpayers. It comes from athletic department revenue, which comes from ticket sales, merch sales, whatever. Like, it doesn't come from taxpayer revenue. So that's the extra part of that. It is 1,000%. Jeff Landry said 3 specific things that just aren't true. And I will say, I don't want to outright accuse the guy of lying, but he made those 3 statements at a press conference 2 days ago, which meant he had 2 days. And I'm assuming at least one person had to say, hey, Jeff, like, cool, love what you're doing, bud, but like, these 3 things you said are factually incorrect. And then he jumped on the McAfee show yesterday and said them all again. That is the one reason that I'm willing to say he might be lying, because I can't imagine he had 2 days of being told those statements are false and then just was like,
all right, I just looked it up because I was curious, and according to AI Overview, so it may be true, for the current fiscal year 2024-2025, the LSU system is slated to receive approximately $196 million in state funds from LSU or from Louisiana taxpayers.
Correct. What system? LSU, not the athletic department. That's a different entity.
Wow.
It's a different thing.
Wow, dude. Okay.
Great one. Great
All
one.
right, all
If
right.
somebody came in here and said, this station receives $1 million a year, Lonzo must obviously be rich, what would your response to be that? No, the station does. I don't. Those are different things.
This station? Yeah, that's probably.
Yeah, I'm obviously
not
exaggerating
gonna-
greatly, but you
yeah.
get the point. You get the point. The issue is that the athletic department money that goes to paying a coach is not. I'm not saying it's 0% taxpayer dollars, but if there is taxpayer money involved, it is at a minimum. Athletic department money does not come at the level of an LSU in a state-funded operation
All I'm
from
saying
taxpayers.
is he didn't lie. That's
No.
He didn't.
He told factual incorrects.
Is it?
Yes.
No.
This isn't subjective. This
If
isn't up for
money
debate.
is coming in there, some of that money is probably going to the team.
Brian Kelly's money, as is the truth with Ryan Day, and it is the truth with Shane Beamer and Dabo Swinney, is not taxpayer money. It's not.
I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, that the average LSU fan could care less about
That
all this
doesn't
crap.
matter.
All
That
they
doesn't
care
make
about
it
is
okay.
getting a good coach in. I see what you're saying, but all they care about is getting a coach in that can win some games.
I don't disagree with you. But if you can't see or don't agree with me on, fine, we can have the debate. But to me, the ramifications of having a governor of any state become a de facto athletic department chair. Jeff Landry right now is effectively the acting athletic director. He got a coach fired and he got the athletic director fired. He is the acting AD right now.
The only way
If
the only way that this is copycatted or anything like that is if his actions cause a coach to come in there, an AD to come in there that wins a championship for LSU. If it's more of the same, this is going to be brushed under the rug.
We'll see. What I will say is, I don't want to take the risk. And what I will say is, the one stance I have had that has been consistent across the NFL, across college football, across everything else, football decisions need to be made by football dudes, not people outside of football. I feel the same way about Jeff Landry getting involved as I do David Tepper getting involved, as I do Jerry Jones being involved. You're not a football guy. Get out of the way of the football guys so that football guys can make football decisions. It's not that complicated, and I don't care if it's Jeff Landry or Jerry Jones or anybody else. Get out of the way and let football dudes make the football decisions, because it sets a precedent that can absolutely down the line become a big problem for any public state institution around the country. All right, when we come back here in just a minute, let's take a look at some of the NFL games coming up this weekend. Rashad Beard in about 20 minutes will break down the Carolina Panthers game for us. All that and more coming up on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
By the way, Jeff Landry was a wide receiver for St. Martinsville High School.
Oh, man.
Which means he's a football guy. I mean, what do you mean, a certain level of football guy or a football guy? And you keep mentioning Jerry Jones. We know he played football.
Put it this way.
So, I mean.
Rob Brown knows ball. You know what Rob Brown's not qualified to do? Pick the next LSU head coach.
Speaking third person.
I mean, it's impactful. Be right back, dudes and dudettes. show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. We've talked a lot of college football this morning on the show. We will do so again in about an hour from now when the host of SiriusXM's College Football Overtime, Denton Day, joins us. We'll get his thoughts on the college football slate upcoming. A couple games of impact that we have not gotten to yet, and we will. Coming up here in about 15 minutes from now, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast will join us. We'll get his thoughts on the loss to Buffalo last weekend, the game against Green Bay up at Lambeau Field coming up this weekend. The update on Bryce Young, full participant at practice yesterday, which if he did indeed sustain a high ankle sprain, would be a miraculous recovery, to be honest with you. But we'll find out about that with Rashad Beard. 9 o'clock, the fellas from the Moving the Chains pod will swing by and get you set up for the high school weekend upcoming.
Did you send out a message to all those guys that the Halloween costume?
No, absolutely
required?
not. Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because I could be wrong about this. I don't think Rashad's a costume guy. It's just a vibe. I don't think he's a costume guy. There's nothing wrong with that, provided you don't like.
Listen, Rashad is straight up Deadpool.
I don't disagree. I'm not saying I couldn't come up with some great ones for him.
He could dress up as Deadpool. It would be amazing.
Yeah.
Let the dreads come out the back. That would be even cooler.
Yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong about it. I'm saying I just don't get the vibe. Kevin has a day at work where he actually has to be a professional, so there's no way he's pulling up in costume today.
Who told you that?
Nobody. That's just my intuition.
But he has to do at least one day a week. So
Denton, I could see potentially showing up in costume, but at 1,000%, if he does, it will also be a pro wrestler.
Or anime.
Yeah.
He's really into
big anime guy,
also.
but in my conversations with Denton, if Denton's going to show up, he's going to show up as Macho Man. That's going to be the guess for me. We'll see. We'll find out.
I am telling you, John Epps he dresses up.
No chance. John's too cool for that. John's too cool. He's too cool in his mind for that. We'll find out. We'll see. They come up at 9 o'clock. Denton Day at 9:20. Rashad Beard at 8:40. Let's take a quick look up and down. Just an early preview of some of the biggest games in the National Football League this weekend. What are we supposed to do with the Chicago Bears right now? Like, what am I supposed to do with this football team? They're taking on Cincinnati. They're 2.5-point favorites on the road. It's effectively a toss-up game. They think Chicago might be a touchdown better. You get the points, whatever. This is a team that had 4 consecutive wins, but they got hammered by the Ravens without Lamar Jackson.
So who has the best quarterback between the two teams?
Honestly, to me, Caleb Williams. Honestly, to me, it's Chicago.
Okay, all right. One of them's actually won a Super Bowl.
Correct.
I'm just saying.
That was how many years ago that Joe Flacco?
I don't know. Maybe,
a lot of them.
10, 15 years.
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah. More than a majority of Caleb Williams' time on earth since that happened.
Yeah, he may have won it before Caleb Williams was born.
It's been a minute.
It's possible.
So with that being said, the Bengals did beat the Steelers. They turn around, they lose to the Jets. Only a 1-point loss. It was the best game of Justin Fields' year so far. Defensively, the Jets were as good as they've been all year. And on top of that, they had all the drama going on around their owner and yada, yada, yada. I don't know what to do with the Chicago Bears. I want to say the Bears are the better team. I want to say the vibes, the Joe Flacco vibes pretty much ran out, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. I don't know how that works out. I don't know what the overall take is going to be. I want to go with the Bears, but I'm going to need some consistency we haven't gotten. Minnesota is at Detroit. The Lions -9.5 at home against Minnesota. Again, similar situation. I was really in on the Vikings. I thought Kevin O'Connell has probably been the best coach in the NFL the last 2 years, but the team is now 3-4. I think I'm not going to say for sure, but I'm relatively sure at this point. JJ McCarthy isn't I'm not saying he hasn't been hurt. I don't think he's banged up as they made him up to be. I think they were like, oh, crap, he's not there yet, and they want to give him time to go. Now with Carson Wentz going down, what do you do? I mean, is McCarthy going to be back this week? Is Brosmer going to get the start? They're going to turn to a relatively unknown so that they can blame a loss on that. I don't know what Minnesota is. That being said, these Detroit Lions, 5-2, second in the NFC North right now. The losses they have, the Packers, and this was when the Packers looked like a dominant team out of the rip, and they lost to the Chiefs turned around and hammered the NFC South leading Tampa Bay Buccaneers
I don't
next
know.
week.
Aiden Hutchinson just got paid
A lot of money.
Typically, when people get paid, they don't play as well. I don't think it's going to happen with him. He's recovered pretty well from his injury and is playing really good for Detroit. Detroit's going to win this easy.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, to me, the story of this game is 100% JJ McCarthy. Like, what is he? I think it's a miss, but we'll see. Carolina at Green Bay. We're obviously going to go into this one in depth here in about 10 minutes with Rashad Beard. The Packers 13.5-point favorites, 2 touchdowns for them to cover up on Carolina. Bryce Young is back. Xavier Legette did not practice. Everybody else in the wide receiver core did yesterday. Brady Christensen added to the IL. He is done for the year with a ruptured Achilles. Dude, like, this game to me is a game where Bryce Young is either going to establish himself as I am or I ain't him. If Carolina turns around and they get blown out by the Packers like they got blown out by the Bills, then the conversation is going to be, why do we consider Bryce Young dramatically better than Andy Dalton if they get the same results? I think he is dramatically better than Andy Dalton, but he's going to have to prove it on the road at Green Bay. The Chargers at Tennessee, they are favored by 9.5. You know what Tennessee is to me? Tennessee is another one of the teams that, like, their front office won't get out of their way. Their front office is hey, how's Mike Vrabel doing now, Titans? I'd say pretty solid considering he's leading a division that he was picked to finish 3rd or 4th in. I don't get it. I don't get this team. I don't get the front office, and I think they keep killing themselves. And I think at this point, and here's the problem, I think they're breaking Cam Ward. I really do. I think they're breaking Cam Ward. I think they are going to end up creating a world where this kid cannot survive in Tennessee. And could Cam Ward go on to be the next Danny Dimes, where he gets traded, he goes to another team, a team that is competent in the front office, and he kicks a bunch of ass? I think the answer might be yes. I was not super in on Cam Ward as a draft pick, primarily because, as I've said a few times, I do not know that Cam Ward handles on-field adversity the way that I'd like him to be an NFL starting quarterback. I do know the kid's got an arm and he's got raw athleticism. Like, if somebody can be right for Cam Ward, I think he can be good. I just don't think it's Tennessee. Atlanta's at New England. The Patriots -5.5 hosting Atlanta. Michael Penix Jr. expected to be back. Drake London is a big question mark for the Falcons right now. That being said, you lost at home to Miami. Like,
are you surprised that line is what it is?
Yes. I really thought this would be worst case. I thought it'd be 6.5. Like, worst case, I thought they'd make you play with the touchdown number, maybe 7.5. I got to tell you, like, right now, I think New England -5.5 feels like the play. San Francisco is at the G-Men. 2.5-point favorites of the 49ers on the road at New York. By the way, I don't know if I'm going to have somewhere to put this in the show. Cam Scadaboo's injury was apparently dramatically worse than we thought. Remember how I pointed out at I came across the picture, like a side ground level picture, and you could see where the ankle was moved over, and it just looked like the end of a stump for Cam Scadaboo.
Oh, no.
Cam Scadaboo.
No.
The reason is because the bone penetrated the skin.
Oh.
It was a compound fracture. The bone penetrated. That was the bone of Cam Scadaboo's leg sticking out. It also ruptured a couple of nerves down there, which all of that, and it tore the ligament that is on the inside of your ankle, which has to be completely surgically rebuilt. Devastating injury. I will say this real quick, and then we got to get out. We'll get Cam Scadaboo. We'll get Rashad Beard in the next segment, and we'll run through the back half of the schedule later in the show. I do have to say this. Cam Scadaboo, I said on Monday, the reason the loss was so painful was because Cam Scadaboo was the great unifier. I did not know anybody of any demographic and any persuasion that wasn't loving watching Cam Scadaboo play football. Cam Scadaboo did something I didn't think anybody could do. He made Philly fans nice. Big Dom went to the hospital after the game and brought him Philly cheesesteaks. Like, a number of Eagles players went to the hospital because he had to stay for a couple of days. He had to have surgery there. Like, it had to happen immediately. A number of Eagles staff and players went by to go see, visit, check in, and bring stuff to Cam Scadaboo. If you are a dude that can make Eagles fans nice, you're the great unifier, man. Cam Scadaboo might be what saves this country in the long run. We'll see. All right, when we come back, Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast, joins us. We'll check in, get his thoughts on last week's loss to the Bills, this week's game against the Packers. That's coming up next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. See, we're not all bad mostly. Yeah, that's fair. Good morning. Yes, you got a pair of big evils in the house today. Austin showing up, getting it off the rip. Hell yeah. WrestleMania 1 Undertaker. Love it. All right, guys, step away. Get Rashad lined up. We'll come right back.
Either. That's probably
What up, Rashad Beard?
What's going on? What's up? What's up?
We doing, big fella?
Oh, is that the taker?
There he is.
Told
That's
you
crazy. That's crazy. Sorry, I was looking at another screen. It caught me off guard. Double takers. I just saw you, Zoe. My bad.
Oh, so you saw him and didn't see me.
I saw him first. Yeah.
Oh, he's all happy now because you saw him first.
Double takers. I like it.
Look, I ordered a full top to bottom Kane costume, hair, mask, everything, because I was gonna show up and surprise him as the Brothers of Destruction. And I got an email yesterday morning saying it's gonna show up Saturday morning. So I'm like, crap. So I had to adjust on the fly.
Great pivot. Pivot.
It's all you can do sometimes.
Yeah, it's facts.
The Rob Brown Show rolling on a hashtag Friday football fiesta. We have talked a ton of college football. We gave you an early rundown and some thoughts on the NFL slate coming up tomorrow. One of the games taking place in the early window, of course, your Carolina Panthers on the road heading up to the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. And there is nobody on planet Earth I'd rather talk about this game with than the man, the myth, the legend, my guy, the host of the Panther Nation podcast, which you can find on Twitter at Panther Nation PC. More importantly, get at him on the YouTube channel, Panther Nation Podcast. Get subscribed, hit the bell, do all the millennial click the button stuff you got to do to make sure that you're there every time Rashad Beard grabs a mic. What up, fella?
What's going on, guys, man? I appreciate it. Happy Halloween. Love the costumes. Love the
man.
costumes.
Yeah, just a couple of idiots who get paid to be idiots. We might as well have some fun with it. Absolutely. That, by the way, is the sound, Rashad Beard, that I heard playing around halftime of the Bills game last week for you guys. It did not go well for the Cats. So I'll just make the first question easy. What was that?
Yeah, that's funny. I do not know what happened. We did not look prepared. I want to start with this. I didn't really have going into the season. I didn't expect to win this game. Obviously, expectations went a little bit higher as the season went on. Won a couple games, so I'm not necessarily mad at this loss. The how is a little difficult, but I also put an asterisk by it because there is no Bryce Young. I think with Bryce Young, and I came on the show. And I told you one of my concerns was having Andy Dalton back there with his inability to make plays and stretch the football out when plays break down. And Andy Dalton is a statue, and he got sacked 7 times. And the offensive line didn't look good. We dealt with a lot of injuries, and I know we'll talk about some of those a little bit later, I'm assuming. But a lot of injuries, just not good play. Our defense. We play the Rico sound bar when we do something great. We got Rico'd. It's never fun when you on the other side of a Rico. And so yeah, we got ran all over, and it wasn't good, man. So just not a good game across the board. Bad performance by the team, and I'll say bad performance by the fans as well. Because walking into that stadium, it was a home Bills game, and it was super unfortunate, and I'm super disappointed in the fan base for allowing that to happen.
Yeah, that was interesting, and I do want to get back to the football, the X's and O's, but like for a team that the weekend before, and they didn't really show it as much during the Dallas game as I had liked, but for a team that historically is known for taking over stadiums because of the size of their bandwagon-ass audience, it felt to me, watching on TV, like Buffalo took over the stadium in a way that y'all kept Dallas from doing, and that kind of confused me, especially coming off of a couple of wins back-to-back. Like, how did that happen? Was it like, no Bryce Young, we're going to get smacked? Was it just like negativity, pessimism from the fan base, or was there something else going on in Charlotte? I was real confused.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I will say that, Dallas isn't playing that well, so maybe their fans didn't want to see them. Maybe that's why we can explain that. But Buffalo doesn't come around Charlotte very often. So when they do, I have never seen Bank of America Stadium overrun like that. Obviously, we do have a lot of transplants in Charlotte, and there's a lot of people from other teams, a lot of fans from other teams that come when, their teams come into town. But it was really bad. It was so bad. I looked off to the left coming down 77, and I saw a sea of red, white, and blue tailgating. I had never seen that. They had multiple tailgates over all throughout Uptown. It was bad. It was really bad. And the Bills are a good team, so I got to give them credit. When their team is playing well, it's gonna, their fans are gonna show up. So that's what they did. So it's unfortunate, but we got to do better. And I think the way the PSL system works is a lot of these tickets are sold before the season starts. So the Panthers have to put on a better product, consistently in order for the fans to stay in their seats and or at least sell them to other Panthers fans. Panthers fans don't want to come to the games either because we hadn't been playing that well historically. So we'll be better, though. We'll be better.
Rashad Beard from the Panther Nation podcast joining us here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Let's stay with that loss, but talk about how it translates to this week. Listen, you mentioned it, no Bryce Young. I'm intrigued. Bryce Young, a full participant at practice yesterday, which I don't know what that means, because if he really had a high ankle sprain, ain't no damn way, because that's not how that injury works at all, short of unless somebody hit him with the Mr. Miyagi treatment to get him right. I don't know how that happens. On the flip side, do you believe that after what you saw last week, and by the way, Buffalo's and this is really what concerns me the most, Rashad, Buffalo's defense ain't good. Like, it's not a good defense. That was a bad defense that stopped the offense. Is Bryce Young that crucial or that important of a player that the difference between getting kept out of the end zone by a bad Buffalo defense and going on the road and being able to compete by Green Bay is just the difference from Andy Dalton to Bryce Young?
Well, let's start with the Bills defense, because I think the Bills defense had somebody on the team that is very familiar with our offense and our systems, is Shaq Thompson. I do believe that Shaq Thompson knew exactly what we were going to do. The players said as such, right? The players said that it's almost like they knew exactly what we were going to do. And so I do think that that had a little bit to do with it. I'm not going to say – I think Bryce Young is crucial to the offense, and I do think that Bryce Young plays better than Andy Dalton does. I firmly do believe that. Andy Dalton looked completely lost out there. He looked he's basically done. But I do think Bryce Young is going to be better. Now, with that said, I do agree Buffalo's defense is not that good. Green Bay's defense has some very good pass rushers, and we have a banged-up offensive line. It's going to be problematic. This game is going to be tough for Bryce Young and company. I have no doubt about that. We have to get back to the run game, have to get back to Rico, have to get back to Chubba getting back right. We're going to have to lean on that run game and see what we can do, but it's going to be a tough out. But I do believe Bryce is going to allow us to have a better showing. He's just more mobile. He's just able to kind of create when there's nothing to create. And I think that's something we were missing on Sunday without Bryce Young.
That is going to be very, very interesting. Let's start with, obviously, I think for this game specifically, maybe even more important than Bryce Young, who, by the way, depending on the severity of that injury and how much of a lingering issue it's going to be, to play behind an offensive line that struggled last week. And now we know that it was a ruptured Achilles for Brady Christensen and now on the IL for the season, meaning even more rotations for a line that has already had to have some rotations. Man, like, what a terrible point in the season for that to happen and for this to be happening.
Not fun at all. Not fun at all, especially for a group that was, top 10 playing top 10 football. You know what I mean? You had Robert Hunt. He goes down earlier. Your high-paid guard, he goes down. Then you replace him with Brady Christensen. He goes down in a game that was basically out of hand. I hate to see that happen in that type of game where we're just kind of struggling along. So Brady Christensen is out and probably going to be replaced by Chandler Zavala, who was on IR and now comes back. He's going to get forced right back into the game coming off injury. And not only him, I mean, you got Cade Mays, who's I believe is doubtful. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be a combination we have yet to see all season on Sunday. So it's not going to be fun. Bryce Young is going to have to play behind that offensive line. An offensive line is probably not going to be as effective in run blocking, which is going to then in turn make him throw the football and have to drop back. And it's going to be one of those games where he's going to have to throw the football 25, 30 times, which is not what we want, right? We want to run the football. So it's going to be a game. It's going to be a tough game. I believe Canales is going to have to get something figured out and try to create something out of nothing, basically, in this game. It's going to be tough. Green Bay's defense is tough.
It is. So what do we make of the run game? I think all three of us last week, Rashad, were of the impression Rico feature back. It's not to say you don't utilize Chubba Hubbard. You do, but Rico needs to kind of be the bell cow, the workhorse. And Chubba ended up with more carries. And my thought was, there were a few spots in that game where Chubba was the right running back due to style against certain plays. So I don't think this was like, oh, what a bad decision by Canales to give Chubba the ball more than you gave the ball to Rico Dowdle, who had been on the heater. I think a lot of it was situationally based, but at the same time, like, this feels like a game where you kind of want to force the run because the pass rush is going to be so disruptive that if they are not locking in on running backs as a threat, Bryce Young becomes a tackling dummy.
Yeah, we have to force the run in this game. I think we have to force the run in every game, not just this game. I think that's our identity. That's where we have been successful when we're winning the football games. When we're winning, we are running the football very well. And so it's just going to be a little bit of a struggle because of the offensive line. I believe they're going to struggle a little bit. Those rush lanes won't open up as wide as they typically do, just because you have Brady Christensen. You don't have potentially no Cade Mays. It's going to be tough. But yeah, I think they need to rely on the run game. I am one that thinks that Chubba Hubbard does deserve a 50-50 split. But I do agree, and I think Canales also agrees that you got to ride the hot hand, and Rico is definitely more efficient in the run game. So I understand. I'm starting to lean that way too. That you got to go with the hot hand. You got to go with go with Rico. Give Rico the football and let him dominate until he can't. And just kind of ride the Rico wave. We've been doing it for a while. It's been working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So got to roll Rico. I'm leaning that way. I thought that Chubba would be a little bit more effective coming back off the injury. I do think that he deserved a couple more carries just to kind of get him back right. He's a really good running back. People forget he was a 1,000-yard running back. So we're just kind of throwing him to the wayside like he was nobody, and that's not the case. He's a good running back, and I think that he's just not more effective than Rico, and that's just what it is. So shout out to Rico. Give Rico the rock. Give Rico the rock.
So real quick, because I do want to get your 36,000-foot view of the game. But before we get there, another report dropped yesterday that at least one team, maybe more, have been ringing up Dan Morgan's phones asking about the availability of Chubba Hubbard. And look, man, there's factors that go into this. Yes, I understand Rico Dowdle's a good back, 1,000-yard back. That's all well good. He's also a guy that's been plagued by injury over the course of his career, all the way back to college with multiple knee injuries. And I guess I'm looking at this from the perspective of, if you get a bidding war for Chubba Hubbard and you can grab yourself a couple of really good picks out of it, I don't have a problem with the move. But I do think with Rico's injury concerns, you are kind of rolling the dice of, hey, man, like, we're a divisional contender. If Tampa's going to struggle without their top 2 wide receivers, if we send Chubba away and then Rico gets hurt and now we're leaning on 3rd, 4th string running backs to carries, if Tampa is wiped because of their wide receiver injuries, you're effectively forfeiting a chance to win the division. Is that worth it? Or do you look at the capital and go, look, this was never a year that we were like all in for a Super Bowl anyway. Let's grab some picks. Let's have them for us next year when we know a little bit better what slots we need to fill. Where are you falling on that end of the spectrum?
Bro, it's a very, very tough conundrum because I see both sides of it, and I'm definitely a team builder. I like the team building aspect of it. And from a team building standpoint, it's attractive to see what's out there for Rico for Chubba, because not only can you get picks in return, you dump the contract, right? We paid him a 3-year, a nice little contract, right? So you will dump that contract and allow him to go to another team, get some picks, free up that money. Hey, maybe give it to Rico, and then you still have Jonathan Brooks coming back next year. Again, he has a very long injury history as well. But I also would say you need multiple running backs. You need to have multiple running backs to make a run. Chubba got injured. That's great that we had Rico. What if Rico gets injured? You need a Chubba. So I think you need both running backs for the reasons you just said, right? What if we do make a playoff run? What if we do get into a situation where we are in contention with Tampa Bay and something happens to one of our running backs? You have to have multiple running backs. I think ETN is a fine running back. I think he's great. But I think double trouble is Rico and Chubba. You need both of those guys. And I think Chubba is going to be better as soon as he's able to get his feet back. He missed some time. He's going to come back. He needs some time to get back. He's not getting the full breadth of carries, right? So it's going to take him a couple of games to get back right. And I think once he does that, I think you're going to be like, okay, this is the Chubba we once knew. So I think they're going to keep both of them. And I think they should keep both of them just in case, you know what I mean? And then we can deal with the future a little bit later.
I think it's fair. All right, 30 seconds. What's the breakdown of the game this weekend?
Tough game. I have low expectations for this game. I think Green Bay is starting to turn that corner. They have a tough defense. I don't know that we can deal with those pass rushers in Micah and Rashawn Gary. I just don't know if we can do it. If we can run the football, great. A run game travels. But I just don't know that we're going to have enough. And our defense, I don't know what version of that defense we saw last week, but they certainly have to be better next week. Jordan Love is solid, and that offense is going to hum. I think it's going to be a tough out for the Carolina Panthers.
Yep, totally agree. Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. Follow them on X at Panther Nation PC. More importantly, get over to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the old bell notification so you are notified when Rashad and the boys go live. My dog, appreciate you as always. I would say enjoy the game. I think it might be a long weekend, but we'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Rashad Beard, appreciate his time as always. When we come back here in just a few moments from now, John Epps, Jarrell Hendricks going to join the show from the Moving the Chains podcast. They'll set you up for the high school football weekend coming up around the upstate of South Carolina. Then Denton Day of SiriusXM's College Football Overtime will give us his thoughts on the biggest college games of the weekend. We will wrap up the show with our predictions on the way out the door. All that coming up in just a moment from now. But now, ladies and gentlemen, the undisputed world heavyweight champion of sports flashes, the great Malonzo.
The double champ does whatever He wants Lamar Jackson, also known as Lamar Jackson's, return for the Baltimore Ravens led to 28-6 win over the Miami Dolphins last night. Jackson completed 18 of 24 passes for 204 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. Derrick Henry went off for 119 yards on 19 carries as well. Game 6 of the World Series will begin tonight at 8 o'clock with Yoshinobu Yamamoto towing the rubber for LA and Kevin Gausman countering for the Blue Jays. Blue Jays are hoping that George Springer will be available, though it may be a game time decision. If the Dodgers win, Game 7 will be tomorrow at the same time. And Panthers quarterback Bryce Young was listed as a full participant in practice yesterday. The Panthers haven't made a statement about Young's playing status this Sunday against the Packers yet, but more than likely he's going to be playing. Hour number 4 up next.
If you or anyone you care about is facing a family legal matter, call Cordell & Cordell today at 1-855-GET-LEGAL or visit CordellCordell.com to schedule your consultation.
There's a lot on the line in divorce. This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell, the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. Divorce touches all areas of your life: your home, savings, retirement, and of course, kids. So when you find yourself facing divorce, you need a partner you can count on. Visit CordellCordell.com to schedule your consultation.
If you or anyone you care about is facing divorce, contact Cordell & Cordell today. With over 100,000 clients served, we understand the challenges you're facing on a personal level. Call Cordell & Cordell today at 1-855-GET-LEGAL. That's 1-855-GET-LEGAL. 55 Beatty Greenville.
Did you know there are more than 300 elections happening this year in South Carolina, with most of those being local elections? This November, your vote can shape the future of your community by electing the leaders who make decisions that impact your daily life. For more information, visit scvotes.gov and remember to vote local this municipal election day on November 4th. Sponsored by the South Carolina Elections Commission.
I'm just wearing what I normally wear, Zach. That's all. You know, it's my Friday wear. I will tell you one thing, though. One size fits all does not work with gloves. And I am concerned about the stench that's going to go forth when I take these gloves off after 4 hours. It's going to be ugly. It is Casual Friday, but it's radio. Every day is Casual Friday. Rob's going to ride in on his motorcycle.
final hour of the Rob Brown Show starts right now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the hashtag Friday Football Fiesta.
By the way, this is a Halloween.
Oh,
song.
I'm 100% good with it.
It's from American Werewolf in London. I
First
know
off,
it wasn't originally.
The world just in general needs more Creedence Clearwater Revival. We'd all be better off with more CCR.
I think most of them dead, though.
I'm not saying they aren't. I'm just saying, like,
Okay.
I do believe you are still allowed to play their music after they're dead. I think that's allowed.
Okay, so you're saying I won't get in trouble. Okay, all right, cool.
We'll find out.
Not that I care.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Friday Football Fiesta rolls on here on a Halloween edition of the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. I am Rob Brown. He is the great one, Lonzo. And now, as it is the Friday Football Fiesta, and Friday football, ladies and gentlemen, belongs to the fellas that play under the bright lights in high school stadiums around this great country of ours. And that, yes, includes right here in the upstate of South Carolina. And to talk about it, who else but the gentlemen that run the Moving the Chains podcast, which you can find online. Their website is movingchains.com. Ain't no G in that, movingchains.com. That is the same handle for their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. And the podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever major podcasts are found. Joining this AM to give you a run through the high school Friday night slate. We got Jarrell Hendricks. We got John Epps. Fellas, how we doing, boys?
I'm doing great.
I was gonna say, I see the effort from John. It's A+ hustle, but just D- execution with the mic being off, buddy.
It's early, man.
Yes, Lonzo and I are the two guys that you want to use the excuse at 9:00. It's early. We've been up 6 hours, amigo. It's not early, John. Get it together, buddy.
Listen, both of them are stunned by our amazing outfits.
That might be
and
it.
it's, that's the reason why they didn't both just
That's
jump in.
I am not wearing sleeves. That might be it. Jarrell, what's up, big dog?
It's the gun show.
I'm great, man. You guys look fantastic on this Halloween. I mean, I am super impressed by the costumes. Look at me wearing a polo shirt. I'm just about to go to work. You guys are about to wrap up, but I appreciate the efforts. Not sure what John's talking about today. How can you not be pumped up on a Halloween going into week 10 here in high school football in the upstate?
I want you both to know we also took bets on which of our guests today were going to show up in costume, and I am 3 for 3 because I didn't think any of y'all were going to do it.
No chance.
Too cool, John Epps. You too cool for a costume?
Well, I don't know if that's. I don't know about all that.
See, I told you John would be willing to dress up. And where is Kevin? Trick or treating?
No, he's not.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
He might be.
No,
Okay.
Kevin doing some work today, big sale, but we're gonna let Kevin off easy today. I want to give him a shout out. He's gonna be acknowledged this weekend as a member of the Roaring 10 for Clemson University Young Alumni Association. They're throwing around that word young a little too liberally.
Little liberal with the word young, but I respect him taking advantage of it. All right. Fellas, let's get in to the Friday night slates, and let's start off, Jarrell, with a game, as always, that you will hear right here on the Fan Upstate, the seductive, sultry tones of one Cole Bryce and the voice of the Burns Rebels as they are on the road at Boiling Springs. Where we at with the Rebels and Boiling Springs?
Man, the Burns Rebels, they got to be flying high right now. They're coming off a huge win, over rival Spartanburg. They've put together a couple wins. They've kind of been a little inconsistent. We talked a few weeks ago. They were sitting at 4-3, and we're like, man, you look at the guys on this squad, and they should not be performing at this level, but they've really kind of figured it out. Just absolutely thumped a pretty decent Spartanburg team that's also having a little roller coaster of a season. But you got to think, going into this game with Boiling Springs, who's coming off a pretty, crushing loss to a good Riverside bunch who we'll talk about later in overtime, that this is the type of, stretch run towards the end of the season that can help you, put some things together as you go into the playoffs. So you got to like their momentum. Trey Segura had a monster game. He can go off at any time. They're loaded with stars there. I think they win this game pretty easily. I think the confidence and the vibes are high over at Duncan. And, we'll see what Boiling Springs is able to do. With 5A getting split, pretty much everyone gets in the playoffs. Again, they've been rebuilding this year. But I really like what I've seen out of the Burns Rebels the last few weeks.
John, let me get your thoughts on this game and maybe from a more macro perspective. I asked Kevin last week. I'll ask you this week. This Burns team is interesting in that They have bounced up and down. They've had some games where you go, there it is. That's a quality football team. They've had some other games where you're like, yo, what happened? They did ride Trey Segura, who was the Fan Upstate Player of the Week this week, to an incredible performance last week. Is this a spot where maybe it's because of quality of opponent, maybe it's because where we are on the schedule, maybe it's because we're building momentum to the playoffs? John Epps, what has kept Burns from playing consistent football over the course of the year? And do you think they are in a spot where they can start to do so heading into the postseason? Your mic's off again, John. I want you to know, I believe in you.
I'm trying to do too much over here.
Dial in, buddy. I need you to lock in, John. I need you to lock in.
I'm ready now. So I think for Burns, much like myself, the little bit of inconsistency, and I see it more so in the offense. The talent, we talked about the talent all year. The talent is there. The senior leadership is there. They've got experience. It's just putting it all together in a game. I think that's more so on the offensive side of the football. But I think tonight they got a great chance to really put two back-to-back weeks together, really, really good football. Looking at Kane Rogers to have a good night tonight. And I tell you what, this lines up really well for Burns, because if you can end the season with two strong outings going into the playoffs, gives you a ton of confidence and, really gets you in that rhythm as a team to really perform, produce, and execute at a high level. I think Burns is in great shape. I think we see a good performance by them tonight, and they're going to be a scary team in the playoffs.
All right, I like it. Let's get into some of the other contests on the slate this evening. Greenville is at TL Hanna.
Yeah, it's a Greenville team that started out pretty strong. They've got some really good talent on this football team. They're young, but lately the defense has slipped a little bit. They suffered a tough one over at Chandler Stadium last week, losing 45-14 to Hillcrest. You look at TL Hanna, a little bit of an opposite story for the Yellow Jackets. They started off the season getting the belt put on them by Burns 30-10. They haven't lost since. They've had some close games in the middle of the season, but last few weeks they have really turned it up, especially on the offensive side of the football. Amari Nance leading the way for TL Hanna on the offensive side of the ball. This is a really good team, and this is the time of the year that TL Hanna really comes alive. I expect TL Hanna to win this ball game, and they're going to be another team that's going to be very dangerous come playoff time.
I like it. Jarrell, Riverside at Spartanburg.
Yeah, we briefly touched on both of these teams, talking about the other two as we previewed them. I mean, Riverside's a bunch, and I think it's consistent in this whole region 2-5A, and we've always talked about it being like a slugfest between these teams. I just think most of them have kind of taken a step back, and they're not as good, as they have been in years past, and it's kind of showed us some parity amongst them. So this Riverside bunch, they're coming off that big win last week over Boiling Springs. And then we're talking about, Spartanburg, who got thumped by Burns. So I really don't know what to make of both of these teams. I think Riverside's going to, ride that wave and win this game. I like what the Warriors do, especially on offense. This Spartanburg defense is not what it typically is, especially what we saw last week. And so I'm riding with the Warriors in this one.
I like it. Crescent at Pendleton, John.
Yeah, these are two schools that have quietly put together pretty good seasons. Pendleton started off a little bit slow, but once they got into region play, have really put it together. They don't get a whole lot of talk because they're in the same region as Belton Honeypath, and BHP has just been rolling everyone in the upstate last few years. But these are good teams in their own right. Crescent's really played good football as late. They had a really nice win over at Chesney last week, 45-36. For the Tigers, Amiri Acker, really good playmaker on the offensive side of the ball for Crescent. I think they're a little bit better of a team than Pendleton. I like them to win this game, even though it's on the road. Crescent's a good team. And I'll tell you what, this is a game, you can see a lot of points in this game tonight. Both offenses have it rolling. They could really light it up. This will be a fun game to be at.
I like it. Southside Christian at Carolina High.
This is what, this Southside Christian bunch, they're coming off a huge win. They should blank a really, really good Christchurch team in a rivalry game there. Again, New coach there, Jonathan Guest, so they're kind of putting it together. We'll see. I think they're going to be building towards the future, but a good way to end this season. Carolina High just don't typically have it in football each and every year, so I think obviously they're going to win this one easily. But watch the Southside Christian bunch as we go into the playoffs as well. Could get really hot.
Daniel at Greer.
Greer is a scrappy bunch. Late in the year, you can never take these guys lightly, especially when you're playing with them under the water tower over there at Greer. But this Daniel team, I mean, it is rinse and repeat with these guys. They are another group of individuals that are really, really good, really, really talented. They start off a little bit shaky at the beginning of the year. There's a game at Clinton I watched, and that's Clinton with no T. And they found a way to win. They had a huge comeback in the fourth quarter. Their last big game was against Seneca, a really good Seneca squad, and they showed up for that game too. When they have to show up, they show up. And this Daniel team, I think they'll show up again tonight. This will be a win to propel them into the playoffs and another seemingly deep run. But what's interesting about Daniel this year, they're not really the favorite in the upstate 4A bracket. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle tonight and then how they handle going into the playoffs, being I wouldn't say underdog, not necessarily the favorite.
Let's go to Belton Honeypath at Walhalla.
And you look at this BHP bunch, and they're undefeated, so perfect season. The problem with them is we don't know how good they are week 10 of the season because of the level of competition they've been able to play. I mean, they've absolutely steamrolled everybody. I mean, a lot of your upstate listeners will probably understand this from like a Clemson perspective, where they played in the ACC those years, had really, really good teams, but didn't really see it until the playoffs or bowl games or things like that. And I feel like that's kind of what this BHP bunch is this year. Can't say enough good things about Coach Blackson there and what he's done after losing Marquez Henderson. I mean, they just plugged in some new guys and just kept it rolling. Have a veteran quarterback there, Noah Thomas, who's played some really good football. Tajay Watson Martin was our player of the week last week. I think they're going to roll in this one. Walhalla's reeling a little bit. Their coach actually went over to Daniel this past offseason, Chris Stone. So they're kind of putting those things together. I think BHP rolls, finishes off a perfect regular season, and we'll see what they do in the playoffs.
All right, let's wrap it up with Eastside at Dorman, boys.
Eastside, an improved bunch. They have been a very competitive group all year long. Dorman, a really, really good football team. They seem to have it figured out as well now. They've got some strong play on offense, and they're really good defensively too. Getting to play this game at home, senior night for some really talented seniors. I like the Cavaliers to win this one.
High school Friday Night Lights all over the upstate tonight. We did have a texter ask the question, fellas, about Burns in the playoff. Will they catch a first-round bye? Is there a chance for home field advantage? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I don't think it sets up for them to get a bye just because of the way it is. I mean, it could be close. With the 5A getting split, and we'll really dive into this next week on our preview show as far as like a playoff coverage, it just kind of depends on how things shake out because that region's so tight and the way it splits off with Division I and Division II and then playing amongst themselves there. I'm not really sure with them being in big 5A that they'll get a bye, but there is potential for that. And
there's an RPI equation in all of this as well that really throws a wrench in it. And that RPI I have not dived into yet because to me, it's too early to do it until we get past this week to really look at once the playoffs shake out. But it'll be fun to see how that bracket is formed here coming up pretty soon. Shortly after games Friday. I want to say the bracket might come out on Monday, but we'll have a good idea where people are going on Saturday and where Burns will be slotted in that playoff. But 5A is going to be tough. 5A is going to be very tough. It's going to be very competitive, upper state, lower state, no matter where Burns goes or has coming to Nixon Field. But it'll be fun, and Burns is going to be competitive enough to where they can play with anybody.
Those damn nerds and their math and my football. Unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, Jarrell Hendricks, John Epps from the Moving the Chains podcast. No G to their website, movingchains.com. Same handle on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Most importantly, the podcast drops on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever podcasts are found. What is the schedule the next few days as we get to the end of the regular season and start looking ahead to postseason brackets?
Yeah, there's some big time matchups tonight. We're going to be doing some coverage down in the Midlands. Got Irmo, Dutch Fork. I mean, the way 5A split with D1 and D2. These are essentially for us the top two teams in each division. Obviously, Dutch Fork is a contender every year. This Irmo program played for a state title last year, so it should be a heavyweight matchup for that region championship down there in the Midlands.
I like it. Jarrell Hendricks, John Epps, moving the chains, talking Friday Night Footballs. Boys, good to have you. Are we gonna find you stumbling around the upstate dressed in costume on Halloween night, fellas, or is just like is your costume just guys who are too cool for a costume?
I might get into a costume tomorrow night. There's
it's a weekend, so
yeah, we got all weekend, right?
I do have a quick question though. What was your go-to Halloween costume growing up?
Ooh, I love being a football player.
Yeah, not me. I was pretty lame. I've always been lame when it comes to dressing up and things like that. Just go to the store, grab a mask, throw on one of those black robes or something like that. Scream mask, scary mask face, rip it on and off. I'm really easy. I'm just there for the candy and the vibes.
Candy corn guys, yes or no? This is like the most divisive question in Halloween history. Candy corn guy, yes or no?
I love candy corn.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I thought it was gross. Now that I've become an adult, I actually enjoy it.
That's the right answer. That's exactly the right answer. Jarrell and John, boys, appreciate you. We'll talk to you next week. Enjoy the weekend, fellas.
Thanks, guys.
You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, coming up in the very next segment, we have a gentleman that I very much love talking college football with. We have a gentleman that I am going to predict now when we'll find out the answer. I'm going to say not a candy corn guy, but we're going to find out and also get his thoughts on the entire college football landscape. We got Jeff Landry getting involved with the LSU situation. What the hell is happening in Auburn? Are we done with Colorado and Dion? And turns out there's a lot of football games to talk about, which we will do with Denton Day, the host of SiriusXM's College Football Overtime, next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Nice job, fellas. Appreciate you, boys.
Thank you. Yeah,
of course.
That LSU situation's crazy.
Oh, dude, I've done like 3 segments on it this week, and it's unbelievably dumb.
What a mess. Yeah. So hopefully they get it figured out. I mean, Brian
Auburn is sitting back right now thanking LSU for what's happening, for sure. For sure. Fellas, y'all have a good weekend. Enjoy the Friday Night Lights. We'll talk to you next week, boys.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Lonzo.
You got it, guys. See you. And with that, we bring on to the screen the illustrious, the legendary, and the very handsome Denton Day. What's up, buddy?
What up, Undertaker 1 and Undertaker 2?
The OG and the badass, buddy. I need you to know, because you'll appreciate this more than I think a lot of people will. Lonzo told me like last week he was doing OG Undertaker for Halloween. So your boy went and dropped an inordinate and irresponsible amount of money on a full Kane get up, top, bottom, hair, mask, boots, everything, to show up, surprise the great one as his brother of destruction, to then get an email yesterday morning that my delivery was being delayed until Saturday, after Halloween, which made it very difficult to use to dress up with today. So this was a on-the-fly pivot of what do I have that I can do? And I went, well, if he's OG Undertaker, then let me go with the American Badass all dressed in black. And that's what we ended up with.
Now you're also just going to have a Kane costume for no reason.
Oh, no, I canceled it mainly because I was so mad that I'm like, as cool as it would be to have a Kane costume to just break out at random times for no good reason randomly, as much as I paid for it, for them to screw it up and not get it to me until after Halloween, I was like, nope, I want my money back. I'll get it somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the right decision, because you had
I was real
literally mad. Like, you're not going to wear that in March. There's no reason to.
I don't know. I would.
It is South Carolina, so it might be okay.
Yeah. Like if the band Ghost came to town again, I might break out the GIMP mask for that. You never know.
Yeah. I tried to get a Spider-Man situation yesterday, like late. I was just going to get a mask and then be like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, where he's just in a hoodie. And I was like, oh, this would be perfect to work out. They didn't have any mask at Target. They had a kid's Spider-Man costume. And I was like, all right, like I got a big ass head, but like I can make it work if necessary for, a 3-hour show or whatever, like literally just to be on camera. So I pick up the thing at Target, and I realize it's like cracked open a little bit. I'm like, that's weird. What's going on here? Someone stole the mask. They left the rest of it, but they stole the mask. And I was like, I am not about to be the guy that pays $20 for just the bottom part, the child's part of the Spider-Man costume, when I just wanted the mask.
I had to go yesterday. I spent a good 6 hours driving everywhere around Greenville, hoping I was going to stumble into the one store in the state of South Carolina that had a Kane outfit. So I went into, I won't say what Halloween store, I would just simply say the one that has become an internet meme for, if there's an empty building, this store is now in it at Halloween time.
Yeah.
And I started counting and ended up somewhere in the neighborhood of like 40 plus costumes where there was a sign on the front that was like blank missing 50% off, blank missing 75% off. I was like, how many people are coming here and just stealing props
Stealing
from
one
costumes?
thing.
And the answer was a lot, apparently.
We don't even have a Party City around here. I would have gotten a Spider-Man thing at Party City. I think those are all dead.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate, a scary good edition of the broadcast here on an All Hallows Eve, ladies and gentlemen. You got the OG WrestleMania, the WrestleMania 1 Undertaker, the American Badass all dressed in black. Just a couple of Undertakers running the show for you today, mainly because my very expensive, in fact, irresponsibly expensive. In fact, I haven't talked about it at home because the wife will get really mad at me. Expensive Kane outfit did not make it in time. So
I am so disappointed.
Trust me
about that.
Not as disappointed as I am.
I mean, because
I was going to do the whole show in the mask.
Dude, that would have been
Whole
amazing. I don't know how we would have mic'd that, but we would have figured something out.
Welcome to the Rob Brown Show. Talking college football. We are talking college football now, ladies and gentlemen. And to do so, we take a virtual road trip up to the greater Washington, D.C. area. That is where we find a very handsome, devilishly handsome, dare I say, on Halloween, young man who is the host of College Football Overtime on Sirius XM, also a host and producer on the BetMGM network, and just my guy, Denton Day, joining us on the show. Denton Day, candy corn guy, yes or no?
You adequately predicted my response to candy corn. It is trash, and anyone that consumes it is weird.
See, I'm with our buddy Jarrell in the last segment. Hated as a kid, for some reason as an adult, circled back around, and now I love it. I assume that just means I am well on my trajectory to, at some point in the next few years, asking at least one child, do you want a hard candy? Because I feel like that's the progression.
So you're already there. I want to say I've been a candy corn guy since I was a kid, and I can confirm I am weird.
Oh, dude, if you gave me candy corn on Halloween, you were guaranteed your house was getting TP'd that night. Guaranteed.
You're getting ding dong ditched or something.
Yeah.
I feel like the next step for you, Rob, is giving out not just hard candy, but like lifesaver mints.
Dude.
Not even like the fruity ones, just the mints.
I bought the extra large pack of Werther's Originals, boys.
Look out. Hey, your candy corn that you got in your Halloween bag back in the day, was it uncovered?
It came in these little boxes.
Okay, so it wasn't just candy corn just thrown in.
No, it's not
boxes.
like a handful. Oh my God.
Yeah.
No, that does happen.
I appreciated the little boxes because it made it easier to treat candy corn the way I treated it as a kid, which is just straight into the garbage. Now as an adult, dude, I will buy a bag of it and just munch through the holidays.
There were certain houses we wouldn't go to because of what went on in those houses. And if you got something uncovered, it was laced with something. So you didn't want to do that.
All right, let's talk about fun things again. Denton Day joining us here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. I got a couple Denton Day. I want to run through the game, some of the bigger ones, more impactful ones as we get our first college football playoff rankings next week. But I got a couple of kind of like not game specific questions for you. The first one, and we can keep this one like 60-second answer. Are we done with Colorado? Are we done with Colorado?
I've been done with Colorado for this entire year. I think I've watched them and paid attention week number 1. And then after week number 1, I was like, all right, that's enough. They don't have a superstar. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. And I'm at the point now where respect Deion Sanders, the athlete. Don't even have an issue with Deion Sanders, the coach. But I think the theory I had going in, which was, there is a big difference between being a celebrity who can get good players to come because they want to play for Deion versus, you know what, on Saturday, you got to put on a headset and call some plays and make some changes. And I didn't think that was there, and I think it has been exposed this year.
Yeah, eventually you're going to actually win football games, and they cannot actually win football games. So I do question the longevity of Dion there. You got so many health issues, man. Like, why would you still put yourself through it? You're already rich. You're already getting paid. You're Deion Sanders. Like, step off,
Yeah, I'm good with that. All right, question number 2. Of the following 3 teams, Denton Day, which of them is the most for real? Which of them is most likely to win a national championship in the year 2025? Is it my Georgia Tech Rambling Wreck, the Vanderbilt Commodores, or the Texas Tech Red Raiders?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's definitely not Texas Tech, because their quarterback situation is kind of weird. It's like on and off and on and off and on and off. And relationship advice to the listeners: never, understand your worth. Don't do the on and off stuff. I would probably say Georgia Tech. I think Vanderbilt they're kind of running the course a little bit, and Diego Pavi is a good player. I like that he wants the Heisman Trophy. I don't think he's anywhere near deserving if you just look at numbers of the Heisman Trophy, but he does make big plays. The problem is, I do think you will start to see them get more and more exposed as you play better and better teams. There's a level of physicality that Georgia Tech has that I don't think everyone else around the country can match. So I would say of those 3, the Georgia Tech is the most likely.
I'm good with that. Can they?
No.
Okay.
No. I think there's probably, I would comfortably say 3 teams that can win. And then I would uncomfortably say there's probably another 4 teams, but Georgia Tech is not in that group of 7.
I would like to add, because Buckeye Mike just checked in and said Indiana has a better shot than those 3, and I agree. And the reason, Denton Day, that I did not put Indiana in that question is because I think Indiana could win a national championship.
No, of the 3 teams that I am comfortably, that I can envision them winning the championship, Indiana is one of them. It's Indiana, it's Ohio State, it's Alabama. Those are the 3 best teams in college football right now. I know Bama got pushed a little bit last week, but Ty Simpson is a really good player, and he's a really good quarterback. I still feel like Alabama might have a little bit of flaws, but as I look at Indiana and Ohio State, I don't see flaws. They're good on offense. They're good on defense. They can get after the passer. They can throw the football. They can run the football. Both of those 2 teams out of the Big Ten do everything exceptionally well.
I am in complete agreement. All right, 2 more, then we'll start looking at some of the bigger games of the weekend. Here is the best way that I have come up with to word this question, Denton Day. What is Auburn?
They are a football team.
Yep.
They are a team that wears blue and orange.
Yep.
And if they are smart, they will suffer through at least another year of Hugh Freeze. Because
why do you say that?
Joining the open market now is a bad idea, because there are not enough coaches. There are good coaches that are available, certainly, but there are not enough sexy hires. And if you're Auburn and you're firing Hugh Freeze after what went down with Brian Harsin and what went down with Gus Malzahn, you kind of need a sexy hire. You are not a better job than LSU, Penn State, or Florida. If Florida State hits the open market, you might not be a better job than Florida State. So you got to understand who you are, what your program is, and realize that this might not be the year to make a coaching change, because you are getting not bottom of the barrel, but you're probably getting bottom of the barrel coaches. Everyone's signing extensions this time around. I think people learned from 2021.
Yeah, Kurt Cignetti with a $96 million deal kind of flipped everything on its head. 30-second answer on this one. Hilarious or not that Lane Kiffin is suddenly like the most sought after. The dude used to be a pariah. Now he's the most sought after head coach and could theoretically change the way that college football coaches are compensated.
Yeah, I think that is hilarious. And I do think he's going to change the way the college football coaches are compensated. I don't know that he's leaving. I think he's staying at Ole Miss. I think in the next week or 2, we'll probably get some news of an extension for Lane Kiffin. But that also, Rob, speaks to kind of what I was just alluding to. There's not a lot of sexy hires right now. Brian Kelly is obviously not a sexy hire at the moment. Lincoln Riley is not a sexy. Like, these guys were all big time names. Like, you're not going and taking them. And all the coaches that you would consider as sexy hires, well, they're getting extensions, and schools are realizing we're going to keep you. We're not going to go through this process. We'll just, hey, Kurt Cignetti, you're the big name. Well, we got nearly $100 million, and we're Indiana, so everyone else has that money too. Yeah, that was in the kind of the spot I'm in.
And there's one more thing that makes this interesting, and this is the last one. Jeff Landry, governor of Louisiana, suddenly decides he wants to be the athletic director as well as the governor of the state of Louisiana. I find this interesting for 2 reasons. Number one, don't love not football guys making football decisions for a program, A, and B, if we get to a point that governors are getting involved because they can use it as a political tool, which I'm going to tell you right now, if Jeff Landry is like, I hired the next head coach and he wins titles, like that will keep him as governor of the state of Louisiana. I just don't like the highest authority in the state getting involved in head coaching decisions for major institutions. This whole situation around LSU isn't just making what I think is the best college football coaching job in the land. Suddenly I'm looking at it, and if I am a Lane Kiffin, I'm like, do I really want to go there with the knowledge that if I upset the governor, he might bring the hammer down? And especially if, like, you're maybe a younger coach with a little more progressive political ideology, like, I think this is hurting LSU a lot.
Drastically. I mean, they are, Rob, if you take every single program and stack them in a line and say, who is the best job? At worst, LSU is 3. Ohio State is 1, and then you can have a discussion with Texas and LSU as to who you want to put number 2, who you want to put number 3. If you're just looking at football resources area, right? That. When you get the governor involved and that dope of a governor that he is, you just completely blow up the spot. And if he wants to, like, I know he's not smart enough to realize this, but I wish that he were. If you're already taking credit for the next coach and thinking that, hey, if he wins, I'm going to be here for forever. Well, if you hire the next coach and he sucks, they're going to come storming down your door because this was your decision. And the people of Louisiana, they don't give, I don't want to say they don't give a damn, but they don't give a damn about the Saints. They don't give a damn about the Raging Cajuns. They care about LSU. That is an LSU first state in Louisiana when it comes to everything. They don't care about, they ain't going to Pelicans games. You know what I mean? They're going to LSU games. And if you screw this up because you wanted to give yourself the old politician reach around and make yourself a little bit more important than you actually are, they're going to come knocking down your door. I mean, the guy's a dope. It's not to say that Scott Woodward's awesome, by the way. I don't think that he is. I think he has a track record that shows he's anything but awesome. But the politicians need to stay in their lane. I mean, they have for how many times, Rob, have you ever been tweeted, stick to sports? I need them damn politicians to be sticking to all that political nonsense. Like, get out of our lane here.
Let's get hashtag stick to politics trending. I like it. All right, let's run through some of the big games of the weekend. Don't have to go into great detail about these games, but obviously got to get your thoughts. Clemson, Duke. Duke can absolutely beat Clemson. This game to me, Denton Day, comes down to Clemson's front seven defensively. Take Darian Mensah out of the game, you win the game. Let him run around, you lose the game. That to me is a very simple game.
And that's why Clemson should win, because they still have a great defensive front seven. With all of the flaws that they have in other positions, they still have a really good defensive front seven. So I do like Clemson. I think they'll make it difficult on Mensah, and I am just generally done with Duke. I bet them a couple of times this year. They have lost me money. I am selfishly done with them.
Fair enough. South Carolina at Ole Miss. This may be, I've been told this is hot takey. I don't think it is. I think there are some spots based on Denton Day, what we saw for 3.5 quarters against Alabama, where defensively the edge was being set to keep Ty Simpson and the running backs hemmed in the pocket. On the offensive side of the ball, I'm not convinced Mike Shula was calling the plays because suddenly we're seeing stuff that they weren't doing. We're starting to see different blocking schemes, etc. If the South Carolina that played 3.5 quarters shows up against Ole Miss and they can keep Trinidad Chambliss in the pocket and they are a little more creative offensively, I think this is, I'm not going to say they will upset Ole Miss. I think it's an upset alert game. But if we go back to that boring ass, we lost us a bunch out of our first 7 games offense for South Carolina, I think they'll get run out of Oxford. And I think it's one or the other.
So I feel like I'm a pseudo pulling an Isaiah Thomas here. They have the criteria to do the things that you just described. I don't know that they can execute that. It felt like the game last week was, dare say, like the final stand of the season. Hey, we're going to give it our all against Alabama, and we're going to see what happens. And for, as you mentioned, 3.5 quarters, it looked really, really good, but then Alabama did Alabama things. So I do wonder if there was a little bit of deflation after that one to say that was the best Lenore Sellers I thought had looked in a long time. That was the best the defense has looked in a long time, and it still wasn't enough. Now, I do think there is something to say about playing spoiler. And I think if I'm Beamer, I'm really laying into, hey, like, let's go spoil their season. Like, let's make it really difficult. They're a good team. They're overlooking us. I would lean into all of that. But I do think what I saw from Ole Miss last week was something that I did not expect, which is they looked complete. And Lane Kiffin, I thought, was really, really good in that game. So I think Ole Miss might be legit.
Penn State, Ohio State preseason might have been game of the year, and now it's like not even game of the noon time slot. Buckeyes minus 19.5 in this one. Okay, yeah.
That line's been moving a little bit, which is odd, but take the under on Penn State. There has not been a team that can score against Ohio State, and you have a freshman quarterback, or at least a very young quarterback, and he's going up against Matt Patricia. And in the NFL, when you say going up against Matt Patricia, you think that's really good for the other side. But in college, when you're going up against Matt Patricia as a young quarterback, you are doomed. You are going to be in the 5 stages of hell for the entirety of the afternoon or the entirety of the evening. That's what I anticipate is going to happen when Penn State takes the field. I would take their under in whatever capacity you can get it, and they're not going to score a lot of points unless Ohio State just gives up in the final, let's just say 4 minutes, because they're up 40.
Based on something you said in an answer a couple of minutes ago, I think we're going to be up on opposite sides of this, Denton Day, so I really do want your thoughts on Vanderbilt at Texas. Don't know if Arch is a go yet or not. But here's the thing that jumps out at me. You know Diego Pavia, we talk about him every week. Dog, lives for this kind of game. Love Clark Lee, football dude. These are the games he gets his squad up for. Vanderbilt's defensive line is quietly amassing one of the best statistical years of the defensive lines in the SEC, which is not something I thought I would have said a number of weeks ago. I think, considering Texas's offensive line is very leaky, and they may end up going the backup quarterback whose only experience is at the FCS level with a couple of spot duty exceptions this year, but I think Vanderbilt can win this game outright.
I do think they can. I do wonder if they will, though, because Pavia is a fun story, but I need to see more from him in terms of the explosives. I think you need a lot more explosive plays down the stretch of the season in the SEC, regardless of who you're playing, because I don't really think that Texas is fantastic. I don't. Although it is crazy, Rob, they're still alive for the college football playoff. It's not plausible, or not probable rather, but it is plausible. Their final few games are a gauntlet, certainly, but if they beat Vanderbilt, they'll be 7-2. And then you start to look at that schedule and say, well, if they win this thing out, they're going to be looking all right. I almost wonder, though, if having Arch is actually a detriment to Texas. Is that crazy to say? Even if the guys only played in the FCS, at least that was, meaningful football, whereas Arch really hadn't played a ton of that. This is the game that I am, as a gambler, staying away from, because I don't know, that line is there for a reason, and I have my principles on how I gamble, but I just cannot trust Texas enough to believe that is worth my money.
I am in the same boat. Had a few more that I wanted to get to. Unfortunately, out of time because all of the crazy stuff that's been going on. So I will point out one more game that I do think is very interesting. And I think it is interesting, Denton Day, because it may very well be. In fact, I don't think very well. I think it is an eliminator game. Tennessee and Oklahoma playing a night game in Knoxville. It may not be the most impressive game of the weekend. It damn sure might be the most important, because both of these teams feel good enough to be in the playoffs. Loser of this one will not be.
Loser of this one is out. Losers this one is out without doubt, and that puts a lot of pressure. Josh Heupel's name has popped up in some of these conversations for head coaching periods. It would be very good of him if he wants to kind of showcase his abilities this weekend.
So who you got?
I got Tennessee.
Yeah, same boat. After what I saw last week out of Oklahoma, I'm in the
Mateer's
same.
Too inaccurate. He's a fun player, but he just misses.
Yep, I'm in the same boat. Denton Day, host SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. He is also a host and producer on the BetMGM Network. He's also my buddy and just an all-around good dude. You legend, you icon. Thank you for the time. Hear you tomorrow night on the radio. Talk to you next week, brother.
Fellas, appreciate it as always.
Always mine. Appreciate you. Denton Day at the Denton Day on X. Make sure you give him a follow. And make sure you follow us through the final break. When we come back here in mere moments from now, we'll give you some final thoughts, predictions, prognostications from the weekend. We will set you up and send you off for a spectacular Saturday. I didn't need to say that. Rob Alonzo, you, The Rob Brown Show, wrapping it up next on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stay right there. We'll be right back. Wrapping up a Halloween edition of the Rob Brown Show here on the Fan Upstate. Appreciate the time of Denton Day, of Kevin and John and Jarrell from the Moving the Chains pod, and of course Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast. A few good conversations as we roll on through a hashtag Friday football fiesta. Earlier in the show, we gave you some of the thoughts on the early slate of games across the NFL. Let's take a look at the back half of the day. We do have two more 1 o'clock kicks. Indianapolis is at Pittsburgh. The Colts are favored. I'll tell you why I'm interested in this game. I'm interested in this game, great one, because I think that this is a game where Indianapolis gets an opportunity to start to prove, hey, we are a for real team. They had a one of the easier first halves of the NFL season. They got the Titans, they had the Dolphins, they had the Raiders, they had the Cardinals. This is a part of the season that is going to kick off where it's going to ramp up in intensity. I am in on the Colts. I think they are a good team with the emergence of Jonathan Taylor the last couple of weeks. And I think I came to the realization Danny Dimes doesn't have to be a star. It's great when he is, but he doesn't have to be for this team to be good enough to win. I like Indianapolis in this game. I like them to kind of start to win people over to maybe this is a genuine threat in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, Indy's going to win this game, but I think Pittsburgh needs this win.
Pittsburgh definitely needs the win. I'm not going to disagree with that. They are now suddenly 4-3. They started the year off 4-1. They've dropped back-to-back losses to the Bengals and the Packers. This has got to be a get-right game because after this, they've got the Chargers. The Bengals, again, a team they've lost to. They're on the road at Chicago. Then they've got the Bills, Ravens back-to-back after that. So I agree. If they want to look, even if you want to say if they want to get to 9 wins and the no losing season mark stay in place, I think this one kind of feels must win to some degree. So that being said, I just think the Colts are a better football team. And I think we'll see what JT does this weekend. We'll see what Danny Dimes does. 1 o'clock game, Denver's at Houston. And this one is interesting because even though the Texans are at the home and they get the couple of points, a 3-4 Houston Texans team is a 1.5 point favorite over a 6-2 Denver Broncos team that has won 5 in a row, including wins over the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Eagles in that line. You know what this is? This is the NFL version of when Georgia Tech went on the road to Duke and was a 1.5 point underdog. Like, how are the Houston Texans favorited over the Denver Broncos right now? Granted, there have been some boring Denver games, but they win them all.
Yeah, but Denver seems to be up and down. I don't know.
I mean, like the play level feels that way, but they've won 5 in a row. That's all ups. Granted, some of them have been closer than you like. They beat the Giants by a point. They went 13-11 against the Jets in London, 21-17 against the Eagles. They keep being in these close games, but they keep winning the close games. Like, that's a good team. I don't know how they're dogs.
That's coaching is what that is more than likely.
We'll find out. Jacksonville is at the Raiders coming up. I think this is a statement game for the Jags too. Like, they started off the year. I thought they started off the year very well. I felt real good for a minute there about my pick of this team to win the AFC South. They are now a few games back of the said Colts with back-to-back L's, but they won 3 in a row with a win over the Chiefs. Before that, they go on the road to Las Vegas. This is another statement game. If Jacksonville goes on the road and does anything but beat a bad Raiders team by a couple of touchdowns, I think I may have to look and go, all right, maybe Jacksonville's just a team as opposed to the good team I thought they were. Give me the Jags in a big win over the Raiders on the road.
It's the Raiders. Yeah, Jacksonville's going to win.
Saints at the Rams. The Rams favored by 14.5 points. It is the only full 2-touchdown spread in the NFL this weekend. Tyler Shuck gets his start for the Saints. Kellen Moore said yesterday they are going with Shuck. He is the permanent QB1 for the remainder of the year. So this is not going to go good. Rams by all the points. Just all the points.
I don't want to pile. I'm not even going to play.
Pile on. It's not piling on. It's just stating facts.
I'm not even going to play the thing.
Kansas City. Kansas City's at Buffalo.
Well, I mean, if you want me to, I can play the thing.
How? No, I don't. How is Kansas? Well, I mean, I guess it's got to be a CBS game, so I guess it makes sense. It's a 4:25. Anyway, Kansas City at Buffalo. The Chiefs favored by 2.5, but the Bills, of course, have been a steamroller baby since they came off the bye. They are now 5. They won one game, but they beat the crap out of the Panthers last weekend. They did drop 2 to the Patriots and the Falcons the week before that after starting 4-0, including a win over the then good Ravens with Lamar Jackson. I got to tell you right now, like, I'm buying into the Chiefs are back, baby hype. You know how I feel about Josh Allen. Give me the Chiefs on the road over the Bills.
So I'm surprised that Buffalo is not favored to win this, because the Chiefs have offensive line problems, and the fact that Buffalo, and I know you say they don't look at last year or the year before, Buffalo tends to win this game.
I don't disagree. Let me tell you why I think I'm on the other side. Buffalo's defense, and this is what I brought up to Rashad. The embarrassing thing for the Panthers last week was not just an offense ineptitude. It's that you couldn't find the end zone against a Buffalo's defense that is like 11 wet paper towel rolls playing. Like, this defense is bad. It's just a bad defense.
If the defense is as bad as it seems to be, Kansas City's going to have a lot of fun. Sunday.
We'll wrap it up with Seattle at Washington. The Seahawks -2.5. The rumor is Jaden Daniels is back for this game. Contingency pick. If Jaden Daniels is there, give me the Commanders. If he's not, give me the Seahawks. You can say yes to that. It's a good take.
Okay, yes.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
Oh, I hope one thing is trending.
I'm barely hanging on here, dude. I got to be honest. Shout out to Buckeye Mike, who also got candy corn thrown in his bag. Must be an Ohio thing.
Just loose candy corn?
Yeah, it must be an Ohio thing. I guess.
Psychopath is just throwing out loose candy corn.
I've told you stories. Are you really that surprised?
No, I'm not.
All right, the first thing that's Xing is ESPN.
ESPN is Xing because we just found out, ladies and gentlemen, mere moments ago, that ESPN, a.k.a. Disney, Hulu, the Alphabet Company, et cetera, have not reached an agreement to continue their coverage on YouTube TV, which means if you are YouTube TV exclusive, you don't have ABC, ESPN, ESPN News, SEC Network, yada, yada, yada. You don't have those channels.
That would be you, right?
That would be me.
Okay.
And it's unsurprising and unshocking to me because, hey, ESPN doesn't give a damn about YouTube TV. They want you to give them their $30 a month. And so in order to make that happen, I guarantee you that they jack the prices to YouTube TV up through the roof, which left YouTube TV in a weird spot. Do we raise everybody's prices to cover that and risk losing people? Or would you say no to ESPN? And as of right now, they've said no to ESPN. And I promise you, ESPN doesn't care because they want you to flip over. The only way ESPN's coming back is if their subscriber count doesn't go through the roof. Here's what I'm going to say. It's going to be a real good weekend for some particular websites. And I'll leave it at that. Simply going to say, your boy's probably going to go sailing this weekend, and I'll leave it there.
All right. The next thing it's Xing is daylight saving time.
Is that today?
Well, it's not today.
Or is it Sunday?
It's Saturday night.
Okay, going into Sunday.
Yes, it is.
Isn't it always a Saturday night? I think it is.
Yeah, it is always a Saturday night.
Can we just be done with this, please? Can we just be done with this? It's the dumbest thing in the world. We are past the point that it is necessary or useful. It is nothing more than an enormous inconvenience to frickin' everybody. Can we stop? Please.
Probably not.
Good job, Arizona, being the only state that got rid of it, by the way.
So anyway, we get an extra hour.
Yeah, and then in 6 months we turn around and give it back. Yeah, there's no bonus here.
Well, for now there is. We get an extra hour. I want that hour.
Just make it to be whichever one is the one where it's light when I get home from work. I want that one to be all the time. Can we just be that one all the time?
Okay, well that can't be consistently right all the time.
Dude, if it is dark at 5:30 in the afternoon, you've screwed something up here. That's all I'm saying.
All right, the next thing that's Xing, if I can get this out without coughing, is Kim Kardashian.
Yes, this is the one I wanted. Kim Kardashian said yesterday that she now firmly believes that the moon landing isn't real. And in a tweet about it, she listed like 4 different things that have been not just debunked, but have been debunked over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then the coup d'etat. The moment that I win, I might lose hope in our country. When asked about how she gathered all this evidence for this, she said, and I quote, "Go to TikTok and see for yourself." Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know this right now, and I'm going to say the thing that is going to be maybe the most direct insult to a good portion of you thing that I've ever seen. If you get your news from TikTok, you're an idiot. Don't vote, okay? If you get your news from TikTok, Don't vote. And I don't care if you follow a bunch of left-wing influencers, right-wing influencers, conspiracy theorist influencers. If you get your primary news, because there's no news on TikTok. If you get your news from TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts or any of that, if you get your news in doses of video clips that are less than 90 seconds long, you're an idiot. Please don't vote. And if in any way, shape, or form, Kim Kardashian impacts your life at all, you're an idiot. Stop. The moon landing was not faked. The flag waves because there is no air resistance in a vacuum, and there was a metal rod to hold the flag up and extend it because it would have been a real dumb picture to have a flagpole with a draped flag that never waves. They put an iron rod across the top to hold the flag out and extend it, and as there is no air resistance, and as objects in motion stay in motion until acted upon by an outside force, the outside force when a flag is waving out in the air is the friggin' air. There's no air on the moon. So when the flag is just being jostled back and forth, it's going to keep going for a much longer time in a vacuum. You know, like the moon. It's not. Please don't get your news from TikTok.
All right. So NASA actually responded to her tweet.
Do they just say, you're an idiot? Because I hope they just said, you're an idiot.
No, I don't remember exactly what they said, but they said not only did we land on the moon once, we've been there like 6 times or something like that.
There was an entire sequence of missions called the Apollo missions. We went from 1 to 17. Then we killed it off because we lost geopolitical references and pressures to continue. But now the Artemis project is fired up, which is supposed to bring us back to the moon. And the reason is, and again, I understand, the Artemis project is only a go because China said last year they want to put people on the moon. And as soon as China said we want to go to the moon, all of a sudden, everybody's like, oh, America, we got to go back to the moon again. Maybe we should just do these things because they're good and awesome and they develop us as a society and a species.
It's easier to do if you have a chance to beat somebody, though. So
It's not. It could be the same thing. We could just do it.
All right, one last thing that's Xing Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel, head coach of the Dolphins, who got their asses kicked by the Ravens last night. Theory, prediction, prognostication. Mike McDaniel will not be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins when he goes to sleep tonight. I think you have to end it. And I'm a big Mike guy. He's going to land as an OC and a good one. But I think you got to end it. I think it's over. The experiment has failed. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you didn't, it's your own fault. Come back Monday. We'll break down the whole weekend. Enjoy your Halloween, everybody. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. See you back here Monday on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later.
I literally can't stand you, and I love you.
Yay. Sticking earbuds removed.
Oh, I was trying to figure out what you kept zeroing with.
Really? How do you think I was able to hear the show?
I genuinely never even thought about it.
They were hidden in my hair. So I mean,
I got it now.
And my hair may or may not have also went in my ears with the earbuds. There's this, yeah.
Austin, I do not have a Harley, but I do have a Honda VTX 1300, which is Honda's version of the Harley, and I love that motorcycle. So the answer is yes. And I really wish that it wasn't 43 degrees outside because I'd 1,000% go ride around town this way if it wasn't. But it is 43 degrees outside, and the only thing I hate more than dumb people on the internet is being cold. So no go for me. I do have a pretty dope leather jacket I could throw on top of this. That might be the play. Football Saturday night main event and collision. Yeah, gonna be a good weekend. Looking forward to that. Zach Alonso is the OG WrestleMania 1 Undertaker. Your boy is the American Badass later in his career Undertaker. It's funny to me that 5 weeks ago, Chubba was the man and everything had to go through him. 5 weeks ago, Rico Dowdle wasn't on the team and going for 200 yards in back-to-back games. I don't know where I am on the trade Chubba Hubbard discussion, to be honest with you. Because on one hand, here's where I am. I think you trade him if New England's going to put a big offer down. And the reason I say that is, even if you win the division, which would be great, hang the banner, whatever. Are the Carolina Panthers a legitimate NFC Super Bowl threat? No, they're not. They're on their way. It's an upward trajectory, but you're not there yet. And if you're not there yet, and you know you got Rico, and you know you got Jonathan Brooks coming back, and you know you've got a handful of picks next year that you can pick another running back, and you know that you will have to, you've already paid Chubba Hubbard, but you can take that money off the books and put it elsewhere. I think you trade the guy if New England's going to give you a package. Now, if they come in, they're like, we'll give you a 7th rounder. Nah, I'd rather keep him for a 7th. But if they're going to come with like a 4th and a 6th, I'd make that move. I would. All right, boys and girls, thanks for being here. You're all awesome. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. We'll see you back here Monday. Tell your friends about us. Help us grow the show. Goodbye.